Creepy voice lady. Wow. Doing an intro with someone else on the screen is somehow more vulnerable. Like, I can't even see your face. I can't even see judgment, and I'm nervous.
You can see my face. We agreed. It's polygonal.
So, do you like eat through that opening in the middle? Like, I could imagine a whole sub sandwich just going in by itself.
That's a deeply personal question that I am not prepared to answer. And in fact, I eat through the gluttony rune. You should have been able to figure that one out.
Holy fuck, you're right. That's my bad. That's on me.
Hmm.
Wow, now I see X-Acto knives. I didn't even think of that. All right, so hi, I'm Jake. I make RPG supplements and videos about Pathfinder 2 or P2. Today we're doing a collab with Podfinder. Podfinder, do you want to go by Podfinder or Podfinder and your real name?
You can just call me Phil. It's no problem.
Okay. So this is Podfinder Phil, or Pod for short, or Phil Pod. Sounds like a Starfinder monster. Um, so today we're going to be talking about the Runelords, the Runelord spells, and lots of lore. So Phil has a lot of knowledge about the lore of the Runelords, which I don't have. And he also has a lot of experience playing uh, Pathfinder 2, but also playing in a way that is very story driven. So we're going to be talking a lot about story, lore, specific to the Runelords, and how the mechanics of the class archetype work, the spell schools. It's like so many things are just a little bit awkward in the sins. So let's get right into it then.
Yeah, let's go for it. Hi, everybody. My name is Phil. I run the channel Podfinder here on YouTube. Like Jake said, I am a Pathfinder YouTuber who focuses mostly on the lore of the game. But I think he and I will agree that lore, mechanics, all of it can take a backseat to story. But that's not to say that there can't be some interesting interactions or maybe some conflict between those or in those interactions. And I think the Runelord archetype is a really good example of that because so much of this mechanical stuff works really great, both as a method of storytelling for characters and a method of connecting like power, mechanical power to a character story arc to the lore of the game. But like you said, there's a couple areas where it's just like a little bit off. For the most part, though, I think Jake and I will are in agreement here. This is a cool archetype. Like this class archetype is awesome. I mean, I'm a lore nerd. I think this is fantastic. I am super excited to play this in a couple months. Well, okay, in a couple years when my game group finally has time to run Revenge of the Runelords. But for the most part, I'm very excited to play this class archetype. There's a few tweaks I would make, but overall, great job, Paizo. Love it. Really excited to talk about it. So, uh, Jake, let's dig in.
I'm curious, would you be interested in playing something as complex as a Runelord in a one shot?
Uh, I mean, I'd be willing to give it a try. Depends on the level. I am not super familiar with high level caster play in PF2E yet. It's just not something I've dipped my toe into yet. I'd be willing to give it a shot.
Interesting.
What's the
Okay.
worst that could happen? It's a one shot.
Yeah, I'm just kind of wondering if I could put together a Runelord group. I think that that might actually work.
Oh, that would be fun. They'd, whew, that would be an interestingly balanced party.
It'd be very weird. I can just imagine everybody embodying all of their sins and like arguing from the standpoint of their sin point, if you will.
Mm-hmm. No, precisely. Yes. I'm gonna say we are going to need a sloth so we can get some summoning. Because otherwise we are gonna get wrecked.
No, you have a pole arm. That must mean you're good at melee.
Tell you what, you can charge in first, and the rest of us will watch and see.
Okay. First off, do you think that it makes perfect sense for Runelord to be a class archetype of wizard?
In the lore as it currently exists, yes, absolutely. This
Okay.
is the perfect way to manifest this. It doesn't, the mechanics aren't unique enough from the wizard to be its own unique class. Like it's not it's not like wizardry has substantially changed in the 10,000 years from Thassalon to now. The understanding of magic has changed, but the act of like what they actually did, study a spell book, cast spells from a spell book, create the construct of the spell in your brain, like that's all wizard stuff.
Good
It's
point.
just that like the differentiations are pretty well represented as a class archetype. Like this is, to me, this is much closer to a wizard than a, I think it's the battle herald. Yeah, I think it's the battle herald is to the base cleric. And if that's a class archetype, this is definitely a class archetype.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I
Um,
think that the Runelord actually seems more like a wizard than wizard to me, but that's because I played second and third edition D&D.
yeah, and see, I started on first edition Pathfinder, so I'm very much like, no, the opposition schools are really important. Like
Yeah,
I'm, as much as I really like what they're trying to do with the new wizard of like your school is literally the school you went to, and your your thesis is literally your thesis that you did at that school. I really like that as an idea, but
yeah.
it falls a little short mechanically, and the Rune Lord really brings it back of like, nope, this is your thing. You have a spell school in the sense that like it is the school you went to, but they practice a specific like school in the classical sense of magic. It feels very wizardy, so I'm glad they made it a class archetype. I think there's a few things that suffer ever so slightly from it being a class archetype, mainly like your actual ability to wield your polearm well, but I get it. Within the limitations that they've set up for the game, I think this is the best way you could have done it.
I don't know. I think there was a way to like sacrifice spell slots to charge up your staff to be awesome in melee for a round.
That's interesting. I don't hate the idea. I am a little, my mechanics brain is thinking like, okay, how does that work with the bonus system? Well, because like there's only three types of bonuses. Like, so you're kind of hampered by the fact that at high level, you're already going to be, all those are going to have at least a +1 or a +2, so you'd have to give yourself a pretty decent boost to counteract the fact that like you've already probably got heroism on or something. But I like the idea.
You can just temporarily increase your proficiency.
Oh, that's easy. Yep. No, you're totally right. That would work. Oh, I like that idea.
You're like, for one round, I'm not casting spells. I'm just a fighter, but only for this round.
I don't hate that idea. And for certain rune lords, I could see that working, like especially like the Wrath rune lords who are way more like Mage Knight E.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Yeah, exactly. So like I think that yeah, I don't hate that idea. I think that that has some potential.
I'm
Uh
playing with Rathrun Lord right now, and he is playing it so well. He's all about anger and wrath and just
mhm.
burning and freezing the hell out of people.
See, he's got it figured out. He knows what's up.
That's Swing Ripper, so it kind of makes sense.
Hmm.
So the core curriculum, you wanted to talk about some of it, and you brought up divination. Did you want to talk about anything besides the divination in the spells?
Yeah, I mean, so basically, like you're looking at like we're just gonna kind of skip over the base rune lord stuff, like just starting with the school. The curriculum I actually quite like. I mean, it's all your basic wizard spell. It's your mystic armor, runic body, runic weapon. Like even at low level, if you're playing a rune lord, you're gonna have all the basics covered. You're not gonna feel like you're missing out. You've got all of your basic like, nope, I'm a wizard. I buff the fighter at level 1. That's what I do. Um, you got your dark visions, all that. What I found interesting was that they put all of the classically divination spells. So, those of you familiar with first edition, there were the 8 schools of magic. Rune Lords only practiced 7 of them. They didn't count divination. Divination was seen as kind of your everyman school. You had to know a little, it wasn't worth specializing. So, every Rune Lord gets access to the basic divination spells. So, like clairaudience, clairvoyance, you can do scrying. Love to see scrying. Such a cool wizard spell.
Scrying is
Um,
awesome.
it's so great. Like just as a flavor thing, I just love that you can just sit and stare into a crystal ball. It's like, no, this I feel very 80s wizard. This is the best way possible.
Yeah.
Unrelenting observation and foresight. Like you have all these solid spells that it would make sense for them to learn without knowing any of the really niche stuff that only a specialist would learn. So it really does a good job of emphasizing like, nope, you know the basics, but you're not going to know any of the like really niche stuff to get. I don't know my new spells after they abandoned spell schools. I don't remember half of them, but you've got all the basics covered, which is nice. All the Runelords get access to them, but you're not going to feel like you're a specialist. That was a smart move. I thought they did a good job with the mechanics and the lore there. Because then you take all this like basic wizard spells. You think wizard, you think these spells, and then you just tack on all your specialist spells from your Sin School. And I'm like, perfect. You guys did it. You figured out how to make it feel like this is one unified culture where there's branches of the culture that specialize in different things. I thought that was a brilliant way to do it.
It is, and I kind of wonder if they did it in reverse order from what we're talking about. Like if they made all the sin schools and then they said, well, okay, we have all this divination left over, and it was just easier to decide which spells to exclude because they were already in other sins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could totally see that. And it's probably a little column A, little column B. You know, like I'm sure at the beginning they were like, okay, what are we putting in the base schools? Well, detect magic, mystic armor, you know.
Right.
Uh,
Runic weapon, sure strike.
yeah, all the basics. But yeah, I'm sure as they filled in the sin schools, it became a lot easier to fill in the other sin schools, like the more difficult ones, but also that base curriculum.
Cool, that makes sense. I'm kind of wondering about a couple of the curriculum spells, but only because they don't seem iconically like wizard to me. Like Mind Probe seems more like an enchanter. So I'm wondering why that or one of the other ones was in here, but it's probably just left over. Like there are only so many spells that they could fit into slots.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a holdover from the way they divided up mind reading spells and enchantments. So enchantments, from my readings of it, enchantments historically tended to be putting thoughts into other people's minds,
Hmm.
whereas reading minds was more traditionally, in first edition, I can't speak to earlier editions, was more traditionally considered a divination, like seeing things, sensing what was already there inside somebody's head. That was considered a divination, whereas an enchantment was putting a new thought in there. That was
You know
kind of
what?
the division.
You're right, actually. Even going back to 2E D&D, I just didn't think of it that way. I guess because it involves the mind, my brain goes to people that mess with the mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and like it would make sense. You know, it's an easy division of like, nope, brain spells, enchantment, but I'm sure then your enchantment school gets like way overpowered.
Okay, yeah, all right. And also, I've said to you before that I played Mage in the World of Darkness series, and
Mm-hmm.
in Mage, if you have mind, you have mind, mind in every way. It's
Mm-hmm.
the category of mind. Like you can't do anything physical with it. It's all mental stuff, enchantment, reading minds. It's all grouped together, and I guess that
Mm-hmm.
seems more natural to me.
How
But
many divisions are in World of Darkness though? So I'm like
mm,
one of them is mind. Um, do you happen to know? Is it like four other divisions or?
there are 9 spheres.
Oh, okay, so that's a lot.
Yeah, they go into arenas that like Pathfinder 2 and D&D doesn't really go into, like Prime and Time.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So, okay. All right, let's take a look at some of these sin schools. I think there's a lot to talk about here. I mean, I'm fine just starting right off at the top.
Yeah, go ahead. Shoot.
Let's start with envy. So when I was watching your video on envy, I start. Let's start with the anathema. You use your magic to cause harm with the elements or void. You liked this one, right? As an anathema.
Yeah, I liked that it's very straightforward.
Yeah, I really like this anathema. I mean, it really holds true with it's a nice evolution of the old opposition schools, which were necromancy and evocation.
Oh,
So
yeah,
like,
okay.
you know, it's a really nice way to just be like, okay, yes, you can cast necromancy spells now, which is really useful because necromancy now has some healing spells, which it probably always should have in the lore.
And
Um,
control.
yeah, and it has some control, but now you just can't cause harm with the void, with which when you look at the way envy is, which is historically abjuration, it's all about protecting yourself and stripping the magic away from other people. And I'm like, that's a really good way to simplify the anathema, but keep the spirit of protect yourself and strip away magic. Just don't cause direct harm using your elements and void damage. I'm like, brilliant, good way to do it. And that fills into like all of these spells, you know, like shield, total sense. Tangle Vine, I mean, I guess tripping. That one's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is.
But like Schadenfreude, Enfeeble, Dispel Magic, perfect. Earthbind, stop them from flying away, like stripping their ability to fly from them.
Yeah. Stealing
Um,
makes perfect sense to me for Envy.
yeah, exactly. Well, and like even some of like Bellamarius's old spells were about were literally stealing the effects of other spellcasters and putting them on yourself. Like if
Hmm.
they cast a buff on themselves, it also got cast on you. I would love to see it if that
Yeah,
made it
no
back in
kidding. Or
some way.
like a
That
spell steal power like in World of Warcraft.
yeah, like that would be really cool. Outcast Curse, Banishment, Containment, like these are all, it's all about just like stopping them from using their spells. The Curse Metamorphosis one, that's kind of odd to me. I mean, I guess you could argue like it's good for fighting transmuters, maybe.
Well, I like
But
that it is like stealing their form, turning them into a turtle.
oh, I like that. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yep. But all the rest of them, like Quandary, Detonate Magic, this makes total sense to me. I like this list overall. I thought they did a good job of like capturing the old, the spell crash type stuff. And then if we go over to the Cutting Eye, first of all, this is their first level focus spell. It's a reaction. I love reaction spells, and
Yeah.
it's one of very few reaction focus spells. I don't know of any off the top of my head. I know they exist, but I don't know of any other ones. Um, it's your eyes open enviously, stealing the power. Oh wait, trigger. You are the target of an attack or must attempt a saving throw against a spell. You're not off guard to the attacker or spellcaster. You gain a +2 to your AC and +2 circumstance bonus to the save. Awesome. I love that. Super useful. I mean, every +1 matters, so you're getting a +2. Like this is a really solid defense. I like it. Um, the one thing I don't love is that it doesn't feel especially envious.
Not at
Like
all.
it's super cool. It's really powerful. But this, like I think you said, this feels more pride-ish, and
Yeah.
I totally agree. This feels almost prideful, and it's that like I'm better than you.
Yeah. You're like,
But
haha, you can't harm me because I'm
exactly,
envious.
it's super, like it's good for the abjuration side of it. It's
Oh,
just
sure.
not good. It's just not good at like the true like I want what you have. It's like no, what you have isn't good enough against me, and that's a little counterintuitive, but it's so mechanically good that I'm not really going to hold it against it. Like it's such a good spell.
Yeah, I agree. Like it's a present. Like how do you
Mhm.
refuse a present?
Yeah, exactly. And like in like if you have a strong enough role player, I feel like this is good enough. Like if you have somebody who like really gets into the whole envy thing, they're gonna figure out a way. They'll figure out a way to tie it in. Um,
Considering how much I dislike Pride's focus spell, I might actually just copy this for Pride.
I would. I mean, which one's is Pride's Vengeful Glare? No, that's
Crescent
hang on.
Scepter.
Crescent Scepter. Sorry, I'm rereading it. Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I would put this on Pride in a heartbeat. That's Crescent Scepter is fine, I guess. We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
All right. So the cool thing about Envy is like, um, if like what I like about Envy is, it's super. You're forbidden from casting your basic offensive spells, but in my mind, that's the more fun way to play a wizard. Um, it's not the most gut instinct way to play a wizard necessarily, but like this is the one that forces you to think, and I think gets me into the headspace of a wizard. Like you have to think like, okay, I'm going to counter their spell, I'm going to strip their magic away, I'm going to summon a creature over there, I'm going to, put up a wall here. Like I like that this is going to make you feel like you have to think really tactically and like
Yeah.
clever, kind of cleverly. I think that's a word, but but yeah, overall I like this school. Historically, polearm for this one was a halberd, which is kind of fun. Obviously, like they don't give you the archetype doesn't give you proficiency in only your school's traditional weapon. You can pick whatever, but just for audience members out there, halberd was
I
this
didn't
one.
even realize there
So
were particular ones for different schools.
yeah, there actually are. So there's a pole arm associated with each school, and then there's a sword, because every rune lord traditionally had a champion who wielded their sword of sin, their Alada High. Um, yeah, it's really cool. And the swords of sin were badass. They were
Okay,
so
we
cool.
need champions of sin now.
Yeah, no, I mean, historically they were like fighters and barbarians. Like it wasn't like a true literal champion class, but I actually really like the idea of like, a
Dude, that
champion
is
or,
an archetype begging to be made.
right. Yeah, no, yeah. Champion of Sin is like it's such a great idea. The individual swords of sin were like these really cool, unique artifacts. They all had super cool, unique powers. And if your rune lord ever died, the sword would go dormant until a new rune lord was crowned. Uh,
Neat.
it's such a cool piece of lore. But yeah, so Envy was a longsword and a halberd. So like very traditional knightly weapons.
Yeah, that's cool. I want to write that down. I'm wonder if we can like collab on coming up with the archetype for this because sure I could look it up, but it would be
Mhm.
fun to do it together.
Yeah, I'm down.
Shall we move to gluttony?
Yeah, let's do it. So gluttony, when you were reading this,
Wait, wait,
there's
wait,
a
wait, wait,
lot.
wait. Let's stop and restart the video and then go to gluttony
Cool, let's do it.
because 2 minutes.
All right.
And now we proceed to gluttony. Fuck, where was I?
Gluttony.
And now we proceed to gluttony.
All right. Gluttony, the all encompassing. Starting off with the anathema, use your magic to protect others or manipulate minds. So, gluttony historically was necromancy. So, that's why all of these spells, some of them have like the very obvious, like vampiric feast, exsanguination, devouring void, but it's just necromancy spells. That's what they've always been. And the kind of thematic connection there was always you are consuming life, like the very essence of life itself, and your hunger will never cease. Not even death can separate you from your consumption. That was kind
That's
of
cool.
this is one where I'm like, okay, you guys filled in the other six, and you were like, okay, we've got necromancy and we've got gluttony. I guess they're going to kind of pair together, and we have to come up with a thematic connection. The other ones, I'm
Well,
like, you guys figured these out early.
well, I do like it though, and I like that some of the things that they included are easily referenced to biological allegories, like stomach acid for caustic blast,
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah,
kind of
no,
thing.
it's awesome. Like they did a really good job of, you know, ghoulish cravings. Like they did a really good job of like, no, that one's literal, but the other ones feel a lot more like there are some like other connections that are like, oh, that that makes sense. You got to think about it a little more, but it works. But like the anathema here, use your magic to protect others. Yeah, necromancy was forbidden from casting abjuration, and then wait a minute, is that right? Hang on, let me look at my picture. Uh, yeah, abjuration and use. Let's see, what was the other one? Oh, affecting minds. Yep, enchantment. So you're not allowed to directly affect somebody's mind with enchantment spells, and you're not directly allowed to protect people with spells. Like with like I would interpret that to mean you're not allowed to put shield spells up around other people because that would be an abjuration effect. Now, I think you brought this up. There are some vagaries there. Well, if you built a wall and that protected other people in addition to you, does that count?
Yeah,
Um,
because you're protecting yourself.
yeah. And that's when I would go to my GM and say, look, it used to be abjuration spells. Can we, obviously building a wall out of stone is not an abjuration spell. Like that's not what I was forbidden from casting before. And not even close to what I was forbidden from casting before. So like work with me here, bud. Um, but like it used to be that you couldn't even use like I think these are deliberately worded to be a little more open than the old anathema because like you were forbidden from casting the offensive abjuration spells back in the day. Like you couldn't cast spell crash, you couldn't cast dispel magic. Um yeah, that's a bad one.
Wow.
So like these are to me these are deliberately intended to be a little bit more open than they used to be.
Okay.
So I think the interpretation of like you can't build a wall that protects your allies that's dumb. Don't get that nitpicky. Like and like manipulate minds, I would be like, okay, you can't use your spells to put thoughts into other people's minds, but like mind probe is on your curriculum from your basic rune lord. So like reading minds is obviously allowed.
Yeah.
Um but overall, I mean, when you look at the spell list, then like Grim Tendril, Summon Undead, Create Food. Love that Create Food got on this list. That's
Me
awesome.
too.
That's such a it's not useful most of the time, but it's
No.
so great. Ghoulish Cravings, brilliant. Rouse Skeletons. I love that Vampiric Feast is on here. Like they managed to put some pun ones on here, and it makes me so happy. Like you said, Corrosive Muck. Love that. Slither's kind of weird. I don't really get what Slither is doing on this list, but it's fine.
Well, when Ever's Black Tentacles was Black Tentacles, it seems like it would have made a little bit more sense to me
hmm,
because it's like tentacles from the great beyond pulling you toward them, sorta. But now it's snakes. I don't know.
oh, maybe it's a holdover. That would make sense. Snakes aren't historic. So I'm trying to think if there was any historic connection between the glutton rune lords and snakes, but I don't know of any. There were giant snakes in Thessalon, but those were made by the sloth rune lords.
Wonder if it's just because it's necromancy. Let me check.
Probably. I mean,
Um, it's Shadow.
okay, yeah, Plane of Shadow that has connections to necromancy. So okay,
Yeah, the old version was Conjuration. It wasn't necromancy either.
that's interesting. That one's weird, but okay.
I don't know.
I mean, it's cool. Like it's a cool spell. I'm not gonna knock it. Disintegrate. I have fond memories of that from first edition. I love that spell. My first edition Rise of the Runelords character was a Magus, and I had my once per day maximize spell, and I had saved it in the final. So the first time I used it was actually against a way under leveled opponent that surprised my character. So like in character, I was like, nope, maximized once per day disintegrate, and I just vaporized it, uh, which was awesome. But then I saved that effect for Karzug at the end of Rise of the Rune Lords, and swear to God, I hit that and I did his from full HP to zero in one shot. Exactly.
Wow,
Exactly.
that was luck.
I used all of my buffs. I used everything I had for that one hit. I got so lucky.
Wow.
It was awesome.
Was the
So,
GM like, well, okay, I guess it's over?
no. My GM and I, well, my GM was like, I guess it's over. I'm like, actually, it's not technically over. Karzug is staggered. He's at zero HP. He's not technically down yet because I didn't hit him into negative.
Oh, okay.
So I did that to myself. Uh,
That's one of those moments where the GM is like, I thought this was gonna be hard. This was
Oh, it
like
was hard.
big.
That fight was terrible. She threw a great Wyrm at the party instead of
Oh,
Karzug's normal adult blue dragon. Because she was like, "You guys are too strong." So
oh, okay, that makes sense.
yeah. No, we had like wood golems, Aeon golem, which golems. I mean, I had a big enchanter in my party, so like golems was like, "Oh, okay, so this fight's just gonna suck." Cool. Uh, but it was a fun fight. But anyway, disintegrate's a cool spell. Devouring void, great. Eclipse bursts, I mean, it's pretty solid. Desiccate, awesome. Love desiccate, cool spell. Great like idea for this. You know, I could just imagine like a gluttony rune lord being like, no, I'm so gluttonous that I'm gonna drain the nutrients and water out of your body. And obviously like not mechanically, but put it into mine. Um,
I know Gluttony should get some sort of benefit from these.
That would be pretty cool. Let me look at all encompassing hunger. All encompassing hunger.
It's more void damage and they gain temporary hit points.
Okay, yeah. So it's a vampire spell. Like
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, when I play Magic the Gathering, one of my main decks is my vampire deck. It's not good by any stretch of the imagination, but I like vampire. You know, drain them to heal me mechanics. So it's solid. Let's see, 1d6 basic fortitude save. I mean, the damage isn't great, but the fact that you could gain temporary hit points from it isn't bad. It's not my favorite, but
Well,
it's okay.
it's a huge amount of temporary hit points. It's equal to the damage dealt instead of half.
Okay, yeah, that's if you time this well, like on an enemy that you're fairly confident you can defeat, that's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. It's very thematic. I mean, I like cutting eye better. But I
Well,
will
I think
admit,
that all-encompassing hunger is already what the spell list does.
yeah,
So it doesn't add any flavor.
No, it is more on brand though than Cutting Eye was.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah,
it's very
totally.
gluttony. I like that. And I like that they managed to tie necromancy and the sin of gluttony together, like through the kind of connecting thread of vampirism. That's nice.
Yeah, that
Um,
made total sense. Whoever decided to do that was a good idea.
yeah, it was a really good idea. I wish the damage was a tiny bit higher, but it's fine. Um, Overall, pretty good. Like the school. For reference, this one, gluttony, what was the sword? The pole arm was a scythe, which is cool.
Oh, of course.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
And the sword, I think this one's a falchion, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
Also, fun fact about Runelord Zutha. So the scythe was his weapon, but he always just like lent it out to other people. It was one of the very few Runelord pole arms that was like, no, you can borrow me to other people because they're all sentient. Uh, and most of them don't like
Oh.
being lent out, but the scythe was like, no, it's fine. And Runelord, so Zutha, who was the last and most powerful Runelord of Gluttony, he didn't even use the scythe in combat. Like he would carry it around, but he considered it more of like a ceremonial thing. His weapon was a collection of magic rings that he wore on his fingers, and then a set of Aeon stones that spun around his head. And he had created like this unique like magical matrix that ran between the rings and the Aeon stones that allowed them to like overpower each other and like create feedback loops into each other. So it was really cool. It was a really cool piece of like narrative that he's like, nah, this scythe is cool, but I got my rings. I'm good.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I'm hoping that they like if I was gonna homebrew here, I would go into like some studies where you can like overclock your magic rings and Aeon stones somehow. Like if I was into the homebrew scene, that's what I would go
Yeah,
with
okay, I
that.
see that. That's interesting.
All
So,
right.
like,
Oh,
what did it do for him? Like, did it send out negative energy waves or did it give him
I
a
mean, he
hard
could do all
punch?
kinds of stuff. He could shoot fireballs. He could shoot, like he could do negative energy beams. He could do like any spell effect that you can reasonably think of. He probably had like all the basic offense and defensive spells. Like his Aeon stones could like warp in the way of spells, like ray attacks that were coming in at him and just like get hit, and they would go spinning off, and then they would come back. Um,
Okay.
it hasn't been represented very well mechanically because Zutha dies off screen for the most part. Like he
Okay.
gets killed in the Lord of Runes novel, which is a good book, by the way. It's quite good. Um, it's super fun. He's a really compelling villain in that book, but it's also happening it's happening outside of the mechanics, so we don't actually know how this worked mechanically. And the version of Zutha that you do fight in Return of the Runelords, it's a level 9 simulacrum. Like he
Oh,
obviously he obviously doesn't
oh,
have his full. Well, I mean, there's a good reason it's a level 9 simulacrum. It's because regular Zutha is eternally getting consumed by ghouls at the end of the Lord of Runes novel. Yeah, the way they kill him in that book is they collapse his prison of ghouls onto him, and
oh my
because
God.
it's been because the whole place has been what's the opposite of sanctified, the mechanical thing that you can do,
Defiled?
desecrated.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
desecrated.
because it's been desecrated, like he can damage he and the ghouls can damage each other all they want, and they'll just keep healing. So the ghouls who have been starving for 10,000 years are just consuming him forever. Like, spoiler
Holy
alert for Lord of
crap.
Runes. Spoiler alert for Lord of Runes. It's awesome.
That is horrifying.
It's so good.
I think he still needs to come back.
I wouldn't mind seeing him come back. I don't know how they would do it since a third of his soul has been destroyed. But I think that makes him more interesting. Like he could just be completely like unhinged.
Yeah.
I
He
mean,
has less of a connection to mortality.
I mean, we already know Xandergul is coming back from like Abaddon, which is supposed to be impossible. So why not bring Zutha back? Okay, Greed.
I
My
love how much you love lore.
it's so good.
It's cool.
I love Thassalon. Like I love lore, but I love Thassalon lore above all other lore for this series. It's so fun.
Seems like it's written really well.
They did a pretty good job. I mean, there's definitely parts where you can feel like it's pieced together, of just like this author thought this and this other author did this other thing. But like, so like when I put my videos together for it back in December, it's spread across almost 50 sources. I was surprised at cohesive it felt. I was surprised at like, no, this all kind of ties together reasonably well, you know. Um, so I mean, there were, like I said, there's little contradictions here and there, but for the most part, I was like, no, this for a series that was written over 50 books over 20 years, this is pretty good. So,
Interesting.
bro,
That's surprising.
yeah, bravo, Paizo. Like it's they did good. I'm excited to see where they take it in the future. But yeah, greed.
I'm confused between greed and envy that they didn't use the spell that forces an enemy to give you what they're holding.
Yeah, because the one that which one's the one that gives you what they're holding?
I
Um,
forgot.
oh wait, no, you're thinking of the sloth spell. You're thinking of reclined apport, I think.
No, 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 no. I mean, there's
No?
a basic spell. I thought that.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the focus spells.
No, no, no. I'm not. I don't remember what the heck the name is. No, it's not. Man, why can't I remember this? It's not Entice Gift. That's the D&D version. Whatever. I'll figure it out later.
It's all
Anyway.
good. I think I'm familiar with the spell you're talking about, but like you, I cannot remember the name right now. I think I'm guessing the reason they didn't do that is because it's an enchantment spell, and greed is specifically forbidden from casting enchantments in the lore. So that might be part of it.
Oh. Oh.
So
Okay.
like the anathema for greed. So greed, obviously, Karzug, Zinshalast, Rise of the Runelords. There's a lot of history here for like Pathfinder players. Um, anathema, use your magic to affect the mind, so enchantment spells, or perception rather than physical reality, illusions. You can't cast illusions, you can't cast enchantments, which if you're really focused on utility, oof, that one hurts.
Yeah.
That one hurts a lot. Um, that one's pretty tough. I like it personally because it does feel, I would argue, probably the most restrictive of any of these, with the possible exception of maybe pride, which is forbidden from casting transmutations. So like, but I like the greed one because it does feel very hampering. In exchange, you do get what I think is the best focus spell. But we'll get to that in a minute. Um, looking at the spell list, I like it. I like it a lot. Caustic Blast. Now that one's not super thematic, but I kind of get where they're coming from. So what you'll notice here is or I'm sorry, that was the wrong list. My bad. Livewire. Um, Livewire, Read Aura. So Read Aura, sense the most valuable thing in a treasure hoard. I
Yeah,
like that.
perfect.
Livewire, that one's kind of weird. That one feels more like an evocation to me. But what I think they're going for is like reading through the rest of this list, you're going to see a lot of obviously transmutations, like transforming one thing from one form to another, but also you're going to see a lot of connections to um, stone and precious metals. Zinshalast in the lore was wealthy because of its ore deposits and its stone deposits.
Oh, okay.
The giant lake, if you're at all familiar with the Varisia map, there's this place called the Storval Deep. That whole lake, which is the biggest lake in all of Thassalon, it's one of the biggest in like North Avestan outside of Lake Encarthan. It's created from strip mining. Like they just strip mined this entire region and created this lake for stone and precious metal and gemstones. So like that's where you get things like leaden steps. That's where you get things like one with stone. That's where you're getting shape stone or impaling spike. Like a lot of this stuff would be coming from the fact that like if you're working in the bureaucracy of Thassalon, you need to be able to work with stone. That's a huge part of your job as a wizard. So I love that. I love that like it. They're all most of them are transmutation spells classically, but they also managed to like focus on, weirdly enough, the economics of the region, which I thought was really really cool.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
weird. That is part of the feel of it, though, the theme.
yeah, and then like the other ones, Ant Hall, you can carry more stuff. Love it. And large. A couple things. I mean, obviously, it's just a great transmutation spell, but also Karzug historically, like his main military power was giants. Like his whole thing was he had a huge army of giants, bigger than any of the other armies of giants in the region, with the possible exception of Xandergul. So like I like that a lot. Elemental form, great spell. Dragon form, fantastic. Uh, Chrysopoetic curse. I don't
Yeah,
know that.
Chrysopoetic Curse. You turn someone into King Midas.
That's awesome. That is so good.
Yeah,
Love that. I also
that's
love
perfect.
that's awesome. And I can tell you that that spell would not have existed in the lore until a very specific point when they learned the secret to transmuting lead into gold. Like
Ah, cool.
there's a huge point in the lore where they figured that out, and I bet that's would have been when this spell would have been developed. Lifewood Cage, that one feels kind of odd, but it's a good spell, so I'm fine with it. Monstrosity form, great. Metamorphosis, great. Yeah, just transmutation, battle forms. I mean, if you're playing this kind of wizard, do not be afraid to fight on the front lines, or otherwise you're losing quite a bit of your kit. So,
Yeah, I do like that there's utility in it, and the
mm-hmm,
transmutation through line makes sense. There are a couple of them that I think I just would have chosen something slightly different. Like, yes, Lifewood Cage is useful, but what's greedy about it? It's transmutation. It's
mm-hmm,
useful for capturing people,
mm-hmm,
but like dragon form, monstrosity form, metamorphosis, part of what this seems to be doing is making you more monstrous and
mm-hmm,
imitating dragons
mm-hmm,
and what they do and
mm-hmm,
replicating their greediness.
mm-hmm,
So they might keep someone prisoner to extort them or to take everything they own.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, the Lifewood Cage is definitely the odd one out. Petrify makes way more sense to me in that regard because, like, what's more transmutory than not only taking a prisoner but turning them into a statue? Like,
Yeah,
to me, that's like, no, that's perfect. Like, you're putting them on display. They are now yours. They're your object. I could see Lifewood Cage working in kind of the same way, but like, it feels more evil to just turn them into a statue. And I like
yeah, it
that one
does.
better. Um, but overall, I think it's great.
It's totally useful.
Oh yeah, yo, it's super useful. Honestly, I think this is one of the better spell lists overall of like the spells you actually get. I think this one's a pretty solid list, and I mean, it kind of has to be because you have a really tough anathema, but you do get Precious Gleam, which is definitely my favorite of the focus spells because whew, this is this works really well, like thematically, if your Runelord is fighting alongside their champion, because especially if your champion's a fighter, you just cast it on their weapon and you let them crit with a weapon that deals an extra, d6 per 2 levels. That
Hmm.
gets doubled. Like it's crazy strong. I really like it. I like that the thematic, like you can turn it into cold iron, silver, or steel.
Yeah.
Great, love that.
I
I
love
also
that the
like that
range
they
is 60
included
feet.
steel. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I love that the range is 60 feet, so you don't
Yeah,
have to be vulnerable. What were you
yeah.
saying about steel?
I also love that they included steel because so often it's like you can transform it into cold iron or silver. I appreciate that they kept steel on there because, like, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of these things, like, it's like turn it into your choice of cold iron or silver. It's like, no, I like that. I mean, I don't know why I would want to pick steel, but I'm glad that it's there. It feels
Yeah, I can't think of anything that is specifically vulnerable to steel, but I know that there is
no.
a monster that is less vulnerable to crafted weapons, so I don't know.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. I would, yeah. Let's see, target. Yeah, that's interesting because then I would rule that this would allow that to become a crafted weapon.
I think that a lot of people are talking about Precious Gleam being a great support, and it
Yeah.
is
Mm-hmm.
for vulnerabilities,
Mm-hmm.
weaknesses, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it does extra damage, but I think that the main usefulness to me is that if you have anybody who can recall knowledge on anything, like a wizard, then you can make anything cold iron or silver as needed from range.
Yeah,
That's totally useful.
that's super cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm like, if you're fighting a demon, awesome. If you're fighting Fae, awesome. You're fighting certain devils, awesome. Like this is solid. Now, unfortunately, the Rune Lords tend to employ those beings rather than fight them. But if they're fighting another Rune Lord, then you're good to go.
Yeah,
So
but we're always playing heroes, so we
that's
always
true.
go against the bad things.
Mm-hmm. That was the other thing we wanted to talk about: virtues. Um,
Yeah,
so at the end, once we get through these 7 sins, let's circle back and talk about how you would do virtue versions of these.
I would
I
be
don't
happy
want to
to.
I don't want to lose that thread. Um, Overall, I love Greed. That's the one I'm going to play. I've already got my Greed Rune Lord built. I'm ready to go. He's a half elf.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
I'm ready. I don't understand the mythic rules yet, but I am ready for Revenge of the Rune Lords.
What's his strength?
His strength score, or what's his like
Yeah, no, no, I see what you mean. Yeah, what's his strength attribute?
zero. I am not putting him. I'm cheating though. I'm using a finesse spear. Um, so
Okay.
yeah, I'm using the elven branched spear. I'm playing a
Oh,
half elf.
okay.
He's a half elf.
I was
Um,
thinking the dancers, whatever it is.
oh, I love the dancer spear, but I didn't like it thematically when I could just play a half elf and have a reason to have an elven branch spear.
Okay, that's
Um,
valid. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I love the dancer spear though. It's one of my favorite weapons in the game. Love it on a swashy. I haven't built one with it yet, but
Dude, I think I'm gonna make a Runelord group because there's so much hype for people wanting to do Runelords. It would only be like a one shot and maybe do another one later, but
mhm.
it would be interesting to see people interact together.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. Greed weapon. Historically, it is a glaive, and it traditionally has the or the fire property rune. So Karzug's burning glaive. And then the sword was a scimitar that was cast from lead and then transmuted into gold. So it's awesome. It had a it had so it was super dense because it was lead, so it actually had a bigger weapon die damage size, which was a really cool
That's
like little trait.
funny.
It's awesome. And then so that's cool. The sword was called Chelin and its wielder was called Chelin, and she was a golden statue that was brought to life.
Oh, kick ass.
Yeah, it was awesome. They transmuted
Oh,
living
that is
flesh
so
into
cool.
gold. Yeah. Now she didn't live forever because the spell wasn't perfect. Like she lived for a few years and then she just turned into a statue. But then her mind went into the sword. Like it's
Dude,
really cool.
I totally want to make a character based on that,
Mm-hmm.
specifically the statue wielding the sword.
Well, funnily enough, Chelin the statue has never been found. So like you could literally just play Chelin the statue. You could just play like a variant of an automaton and have it be her and not know.
That's so cool.
It's so cool. Like I'm hoping that they bring her back someday. She's such an interesting character. I mean, obviously she's just a mindless statue. She like until you give her the sword back, she doesn't have a brain, but still a
Aw.
cool idea.
Well, she could totally have the sword. Whatever.
Well, and I mean, let us not forget, like War of Immortals just happened. Anything is possible.
Yeah, that's true. Wow, yeah, she could be infused with the divinity of whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, like a Gorum shard hits her and she comes back. Like easy peasy.
That'd be cool. Like she could even have like a soul tie to the sword to summon it back to herself because she's now divine.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I love that idea.
It's a statue exemplar. This automaton writes itself.
Yeah, yeah, super easy. Um,
Let's talk about lust.
Yeah, the one that's going to get a video demonetized. All right. Uh, I actually challenged myself on this one. So when I wrote my video for Lust, which was the last one in the series, I actually challenged myself to get through the entire video without saying the word sex, and I managed to do it.
Does that demonetize you?
I don't know if it does or not, but I took it as a personal challenge not to have to find out. Uh,
Oh,
I
I
don't know
kind
if it
of
does.
speak.
I honestly don't know if it does, but
I tend to speak freely in general, and if
mhm,
I do say any word, it's to analyze something.
mhm. Yeah. Oh, I wasn't saying in a derogatory sense. It was purely like, can I do this without using this word? Turns out I could. I needed my thesaurus, but I could do it. Uh,
I need my thesaurus. Relations,
yeah.
intercourse,
Carnal
private time.
activities.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wages of
Lascivious.
carnality.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Lust, the heart's hook. Anathema. Use your magic to meddle with physical forms or invoke the void. Yeah.
I
So
disagree with that.
the historical
Ah,
version. Yeah. Okay. Just a sec. The historical version.
like I
Metal.
want to look sexy. No, we can't, because
Well,
I serve lust.
well, you could do illusions. You can cheat. You can use your illusions. Mess with physical forms is because lust is historically enchantment, which is forbidden from casting necromancy. That's the void part,
Yeah,
and from
Tran-
casting
transmutation.
transmutation. Thank you. Transmutation spells. So like I also found it very frustrating that a lust wizard can't just make themselves sexy for real. Like they have to do it either.
Yeah.
They have to either work out or cast really good illusion spells. So like I get it. Like I get why it's frustrating. I do like
Oh,
that
there
you
it
can.
is. Charitable urge. That spell. I thought that belonged in greed or envy.
Is it an enchantment?
Mental. Yeah,
Okay,
basically.
yeah. So that was why it wouldn't be greed, but I actually do I agree with you. That should be an envy spell. That would be really good in envy.
Why would that be lust? Give me your things. I mean, okay, I guess sure, but that's not
Well,
directly
actually, there's
lust.
an in-character reason for that. So historically, so like that actually makes a lot of sense because it is enchantment, but also because of so Lust is one of the two schools that only ever had one rune lord. Most of the rune lords like wiped each other out or got killed by their apprentices and replaced over time. Not Lust and not Pride. Sorshan was the biggest, baddest rune lord of them all, with the exception of Xandergul. And I would pick her in a fight, honestly. But one of the things that she always did was an effect like charitable urge. If you entered her palace without an announcement, you would be compelled to then take off all your gear. The exact word is disrobe, and present yourself with all of your gear, either with or without all your gear, kind of dependent on the situation, to Sorshan personally for inspection, and then she would decide what to do with you. So like that might be where this is coming from.
Oh, I
This is a
see.
very personal quirk to her. Um,
Damn it. I mean, I totally see the validity of it, but then it still fits thematically if we're just talking the feel of lust, envy, or greed. It fits better with envy or greed than lust.
yeah, I like envy. I like putting it in envy. I think mechanically it works really well here. It's a really good spell, so I don't want to give it up.
Oh, I see
Uh,
your point. Yeah,
yeah,
it does.
but at the same time, I like it. Like honestly, put it in both. There's envy
Yeah,
is the school that would. I mean, envy's whole thing is that they steal other people's spells. I don't see a reason why envy. Like I don't see a reason why a wizard of envy wouldn't know that spell. Like they could just
that's
learn it.
perfect.
Yeah,
Envy's like, no, I'm getting rid of this because I like her spell better.
yeah, that's totally on brand. That is
That's
something
cool.
Bellamarius herself would do.
All right,
Um,
yeah, that's good.
so I like that. Invoke the Void, I actually kind of like because so it used to be that you can cast any necromancy spells, which also included the necromancy spells that would allow you to heal. Now, granted, you're an arcane caster, you're not going to be doing a lot of healing anyway, but on principle. Now it's just invoke the void. It's like, okay, cool. So I could still use what would have been considered a necromancy spell as long as it's not a void spell. If it's, Creation's Forge, like vitality stuff, you could in theory cast it. Um,
Well, I see somebody who focuses on enchantment not giving a damn about doing void damage anyway.
yeah, exactly. You're never going to hit something directly. If you're hitting people with like a fireball or like a, whatever the void equivalent of a fireball is, like you're not doing your job, or you're not doing it especially well. Uh, but once you get on here, like daze, message, charm, command, charitable urge, stupefy, like all of these are great. They're all like, I mean, what more is there to say? Enthrall, confusion, suggestion. Let's see. Never mind. Love, sacrifice, warp. I mean, what can I say? It's all perfect. Like they picked all the best enchantments and put it in this spell list.
Dude, Stupefy is on Envy's spell list too.
I believe it. Yeah. I think that makes
Well, there
sense.
we go.
Yeah, so they can
Totally
have
valid.
doubles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't like anything at second level for envy, I mean, you can swap stupefy for charitable urge. I mean, they both make sense. So but yeah, overall, I love the lust spell list. Heart's Hook, two action focus spell, which is the longest so far. All the other ones have been one action or reaction.
Yeah.
But I actually think you get a lot of mileage out of this one. It's got a huge range, 120 feet. Love that. Two creatures. Love that. Um, Obviously you compel them to move towards each other. The thing that I love about this is not technically forced movement, so it can invoke attacks of opportunity. The other thing I love about this is if you hit it on a flying creature and a ground creature, that flying creature has to come close to the ground, which is really great if your party doesn't have flying.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's a first rank spell that's super useful for flyers
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
or
really.
burrowers.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, especially if like you have or I mean, it's also good. This is a really corner case, but yeah, burrowers, swimmers. Like there's a lot of battlefield options here. The other thing I like is if you manage to set up a situation where you can make your enemies like you, the players obviously are going to fight whatever's in front of you, but if there's factionalism that you're dealing with, like you've got two groups of enemies that don't like each other, this is a really good way to get them to fight each other as opposed to you. uh, so
Yes.
again, very niche use cases, but I think there's a lot of potential here. Overall, I get why it's two actions. I think it's super useful. You're going to have to think tactically for sure, but I like this as a focus spell a lot because it does something that a lot of enchantment spell, like you don't get this kind of efficiency of getting two characters to move with most enchantment spells. This is really nice.
I yeah, I agree. I think that because it's a wizard, I think of what you could do with it um tactically. Like you could have one of the enemies move toward your familiar and then blow up the familiar.
Mm-hmm. I like
Because
that.
final sacrifice, because familiars come back.
Yep. Honestly, there's a lot. I mean, put them in a force cage. Like you could do so, or just the obvious answer: go bear hug the barbarian. Like,
Yeah.
like get close to the guy who took the wrestler archetype. Have fun with that. Like,
Dude, yeah. Lust can really just wipe the floor with one person.
mhm. Yeah, I really like it. I like that. Like, Lust is the first one where I'm really impressed with the utility of the spell list. Like obviously all of them have utility. Like Greed has Ant Hall. It's got, things like One with Stone, things like that. But Lust, like so much of it is useful both in and out of combat. And I really like that a lot. Um, but overall, good spell. Weapon for this one, Gisarm. Fun fact, Sorshin's personal Gisarm was two-headed. Like it was double-ended, which was really cool.
Mhm.
And it had the old school speed ability, so you would make an extra attack. And the extra attack was always with the offhand. So her fighting style was very like spin it around and like
Oh,
do
interesting.
pinwheel attacks, which was really cool. And then the was the sword? Oh, hers was a long sword. I got that wrong. Envy's was a bastard sword. Sorry, Lust's was a long sword. That was their weapon of or their sword of sin. So
Okay.
pretty cool. I always thought that one would be like a rapier or something that was a little more
Yeah,
like
I was just thinking
sinuous.
something slender,
Well,
graceful.
yeah, the rapier goes to pride. So I'm like, okay, fine, I guess.
Okay, yeah, I could see sword fighters like I'm picturing Princess Bride right now. Yeah, Pride.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So speaking of
Speaking of
pride,
Pride,
yeah, do we have to end the recording and start up a new one?
I have not been paying attention.
Oh yeah, we have 2 minutes left. Okay, let's stop the recording and come right back.
Interesting. It didn't give me the warning this time. Did it give it to you?
No, I'm watching my time tick down up at the top.
Oh,
I was just guessing. So,
okay. So then
right.
I'll start another one. And
Yeah.
and I was wrong. You don't get it emailed to you. It downloads it directly onto your computer.
Oh, cool. Cool. I will share this file with you then.
Okay.
Cool. Back after this.
Yeah. Going in progress.
All
Where are we?
right. So,
Pride?
speaking of pride, um, the Crescent Scepter. All right. Anathema. Use your magic to change or create physical things rather than their appearances. So, pride historically is forbidden from uh, conjurations, so summoning, and transmutations, so transformations. So obviously the change physical things, that's the
Okay.
transmutation part. Create physical things. I actually really don't like that wording because like
I don't either.
historically it's the conjurations, like it's the summons, it's the
That's not the way it sounds. It sounds like objects.
yeah, which is interesting to me because like is a wall of force a physical thing? Like you can interact with it. Like I would argue that you could definitely cast wall of force, but maybe not. So I don't love the wording here. I think how I would interpret it is that second that little end on the sentence rather than their appearances. I think what it is, the way I would interpret it is, if you can accomplish something similar with an illusion and you choose to do something physically, that's anathema. If it's not something you could accomplish with an illusion, then I would argue, okay, maybe you can be a little more flexible. You know, that would probably be my interpretation of it. But this one's pretty strict.
I don't like that it's
It's
pride though, because like part of being proud, being arrogant is thinking of yourself as a ruler. A ruler has subjects over which they can lord their power. Then
mhm.
summoning makes sense.
Yeah, I think it I get it. I get why that's frustrating, and I don't disagree. I think the what I do appreciate about it is that it makes for some really interesting storytelling. Because it tends to force prideful wizards in the lore to become very haughty and obstinate and like, I can do all this myself and I don't need, you get consumed by your own arrogance, which is, I mean, you get consumed by hubris, which is always my favorite narrative, like ending for a bad guy. It's classic. I like it.
Well, it's also
It also means,
relatable. Pride is really accessible.
oh yeah, extremely. And it means that Xandergul, the most powerful rune lord of all time, could not teleport, which is very funny. Uh,
Oh, that's so sad.
so it's funny. He was mad about that. He was so mad about that that he actually invented a ritual that let him cheat. And he could like tie his soul to a location and then pull himself like through space in a way that replicated teleporting, but was not technically a conjuration, and therefore he could do it. And because it was a ritual, he could get away with it. But he was so mad that he had to physically move from place to place that he's like, nope, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to break the magic. It was awesome.
That fits pride. That's
Oh,
funny.
totally. Well, and Xandergul, like I was saying with Sorchin, he's the only other one that was never deposed. He was the undisputed strongest. Um, like it makes sense that of all of them, he would be the one to figure out how to cheat. So super cool. I love that it irritated him so much that he had to walk. That he was just like, nope, fine, I'll do it myself. No, I love that. Overall, sin spells. I mean,
Wait,
bullhorns.
okay, so they can't do summoning or transmutation, but then okay, I'll talk about it when I get to the focus spell. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Um, yeah, so Bullhorn, Figment, Dizzying Colors, Illusory Disguise, Lose Your Creature Invisibility. These are great spells. Like these
Heck
are
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Blindness, great. Levitate. I
I
mean,
don't
it's
get it.
that one's weird. um,
Yep.
it feels like weirdly parlor trick-y.
Yeah.
Like I know it's useful. I know it's a useful spell, but it feels kind of stage magician-y. And I get like you could definitely like pull it off if you have the charisma to make yourself look cool. But also like just cast fly. Like if you're gonna
But
make yourself levitate, like just cast fly. If you're gonna do something else, like I don't know, it feels
wasn't
weird.
fly transmutation?
Is it? Oh,
I
I'll
think
have to go
so.
look. I'll have to go. Well, okay. Xandergold could definitely fly, but maybe that was his equipment. I don't remember. Um, Mirage, Vision of Death, Cloak of Colors, Illusory Scene, Phantasmal
Transmutation.
Calamity. Oh, it is. Oh, interesting. Okay. Mask of Terror, love that spell. Project Image, awesome. Confusing Colors, I'm less familiar with that one, but I'm sure it's good. And then Overwhelming Presence, perfect.
Yeah.
Love Overwhelming Presence. It's the ultimate, like, this is the ultimate pride spell. Like, this is the most
Yeah.
thematic of all of them.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, overall, really powerful spell list. I really like this one. I think it's up there with Lust and Greed for just like generally useful and powerful.
Oh yeah,
Pairs
definitely because
pairs
illusions can do anything you can think of.
exactly. Like the only limit is like the player and therefore the character's imagination. It's awesome.
I've only
Uh,
known two players ever that used illusion to their maximum capability. It's really hard to bend your mind around it if you're not ready for it.
yeah, and for that reason, I love that Xandergul was the strongest. It's like no, he was the strongest because he was the most clever and creative. Like
Yeah.
that's he. I mean, he was also a once in a generation genius, but like beyond that, it's like no, he put in the work to be clever and creative, and like that. That's nice. I appreciate that. Like some of the other ones, like Wrath, it's like no, you just get mad and you blow things up. This one, you have to be smart. Like I
Yeah.
appreciate that the Wrath one wasn't the strongest narratively.
Well, yeah, he
Um,
has no focus. Just blow everything up.
Yeah, just blow it all up, and it's fun. I mean, I like Elasnist as a villain, but also like the only reason she ever beats Xandergul at one point is because she cheap shots him. It's like, yeah, no, that's the only way you could beat him. You have to cheat. But let's talk Crescent Scepter because I don't like it. It's really lame. So Crescent Scepter, one action. I like that it's only one action.
Sure.
Duration until the beginning of your next turn. I wish it was longer. I wish you could sustain it. You hold up any object which takes on the appearance of glowing regalia. Okay, so it's an illusion. In the eyes of those who look on you, representing the political or religious institute most feared by each creature. If a creature attempts to attack you during the spell's duration, it must attempt a will save. Um, so automatically, they have to attack you for this spell to do anything.
And it only lasts till the beginning of your next stupid turn.
Yep, I don't like it. It should last a minute or it should be sustained up to a minute at least. And then if they make the will save, okay, this is the one part I do like. Only if they critically succeed is it a problem. If they succeed, they still take the penalty. Now it's frightened one. It's not a huge penalty. It's not nearly as good as cutting eye, which is +2 to your AC. Like this is half the bonus, but they do it on a success. So I don't mind that. And then failure as success, but frightened two. This is not nearly good enough. Like this is
No. And
no.
why isn't
It
there a
should.
critical failure? It should be like stunned one, frightened two, or something.
Yeah. I mean, it should be frightened two, frightened four.
Yeah.
Like you like frightened two on a success, frightened four on a because isn't that when they flee? Um, frightened four on a failure. Like this is, and then on a critical failure, like you said, it should be stunned. Like they should be like cowering in terror.
Yeah.
So like we were talking about earlier, like I would just make cutting eye the pride one,
Yeah.
because it's so much better.
It
Like
is, and it seems like pride.
yeah, it's way more prideful. It's way more mechanically effective.
Yeah.
I like that they called out the political or religious institute because Xandergul really weaponized state religion as like part of his rule. Like he manipulated the faith of the peacock spirit, which was this minor deity that was secretly Xandergul. Um,
Of course it was, because
yeah,
pride.
he made himself a god and then he made himself the state religion. It was brilliant. He's so cool. um, but like he weaponized the power of the state and the power of religion, so I like that they put that in the lore of the spell. The problem is the spell kind of sucks. It's just not good. Like I would never use a focus point to cast this.
No.
It has some potential for role play. I will state that like if a player had this and they were willing to like go into a city and use this for like to like influence a crowd or like influence a conversation, like
Sure.
i would
Yeah.
i would
Bonuses for
totally
diplomacy.
tack a bunch of circumstance bonuses
Yeah.
regardless of the text of the spell. This has a ton of roleplay potential, but overall, like cutting eye is better. Just do cutting eye. It's a more prideful spell anyway. Like this is not great. So
And the requirement of it is that you put yourself in harm's way and you're a wizard.
yeah, like you have to like if this were a reaction, if this were a reaction and if the bonuses were better, I would be less mad at it because
Absolutely.
you have to know in advance that an enemy is going to attack you for this to be useful. Which is if you know in advance that an enemy is going to attack you and you're a wizard, you're not going to use your one action to do this. You're going to teleport away. Like this should be a reaction and the
Or maybe
bonus
use an
just
illusion spell or
or
something
yeah,
else.
exactly. You're going to turn yourself invisible. Like you're an illusionist. What else are you going to do? You're not going to hold up this thing that says, "Look at me," this thing that you hate.
Right. That's another thing. It goes against what the spell list does. The spell list creates distractions, and this is I'm vulnerable, look at me here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't have done this as a like I would have done like focus spell version of mirror image, maybe like that would be interesting. Focus spell version of whatever the mirror implement thaumaturge can do. Like that has some potential. I don't know why you would do that as a wizard, but you could. um
I like
I
the
don't know.
idea of doing the exemplar thing of break against me, like as a reaction. Like if you were going to be struck in combat as a reaction, they hit you with their weapon and it shatters.
Ooh, I like
That's
that.
pride, man.
That is cool. I like that a lot. What level is that?
For exemplar, it's just an icon, so second level.
Oh, yeah, you could totally do that as a focus spell. That's no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, do that as a reaction. There you go. There's your focus spell right there. Yeah, otherwise just do cutting eye. It's way better.
Yeah, just switch it up. It's fine.
Yep. Okay, that's
Sloth.
pride. Oh, before we do pride though, the weapons. So the rapier was the sword of sin.
Oh,
So that one's pretty good. The cool thing about that one is the actual sword of sin for pride was forged by Xandergul himself. I mean, most of the Runelords forged their own weapons, but his the blade was invisible, which was really cool. So it just looked like you were swinging a hilt around, which is kind of cool.
wow.
Um, Xandergul tried to be his own champion, but he realized I'm a wizard. My attack bonus sucks.
I'm surprised he realized that because that would be a reduction in pride.
Yeah, no, it took him a very long time. He spent like in the lore, he spent an obscene amount of time trying to make himself better at sword fighting to the point where he tried to clone a version of himself that was a fighter. Um, it's like I'll just make another me.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Xandergul is so great. He's
That
such
is
a
pride.
dick.
Wow, that was written
Yeah,
well, man.
yeah, he's so well written. He's awesome. I'm so excited that he's coming back. And then his pole arm was actually one that doesn't exist anymore. It is a unique type of weapon in first edition called a Lucerne hammer.
Oh yeah.
It yeah, so like they don't exist in second edition.
Oh, that's weird.
The closest thing I can come up with is the dwarven long hammer,
Yeah.
which I mean, it's the same weapon. I would just
Yeah.
say, no, you could just use a long hammer and it loses the dwarven trait. Otherwise, like you could just pick up a halberd and give it bludgeoning damage. It's the same thing. So,
Yeah. Lucerne,
so
that seems impressive too, because it's just a giant hammer that you're swinging around.
yeah, it's really weird that his is just like the most blunt instrument of them all. Also, his was actually made of a secret eighth sky metal. Um,
Secret, of course it was,
of
because
course it was.
nobody
Yeah,
else can know what I'm making.
exactly. Yeah. Yep. Okay, sloth.
I like the role
Uh,
play of Pride. That's fun.
Pride is so great. It's so fun. If I like, I'm gonna play Greed in the next when I play Revenge of the Runelords. No questions asked. It's my favorite. I'm super excited. I already made my little hero forge token. I'm ready to go. But if I wasn't gonna play Greed, I would play Pride just so I could be like, no, I'm the new Pride Runelord and I'm gonna seize my throne. Like that would be awesome. That'd be so fun. We will see who the fanciest lad is.
All
All
right,
right,
sloth.
sloth, the reclined, anathema. So historically, this was the conjuration school. You summon things to you.
Makes sense.
Yep, I love that. Super on brand. You anathema. Use your magic to manipulate appearances, so you couldn't cast illusions, or directly cause harm with the elements. Evocation. Um,
So void is fine.
Void is fine. You can cause harm with necromancy, which I like. So you still have a ton of offense that you can do. You're just not allowed to use the 6 elemental planes. Whatever, that's fine. It kind of sucks, but at the same time, like you can get around it. You're a wizard. Also, you're a summoner. Just summon. You're summon a fire elemental. Boom, elemental damage.
Yeah.
It's really easy.
I would totally go summoning if I'm sloth because that feels like sloth. I don't want to do it. You do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's brilliant. Like it's super on brand. Sin spells, telekinetic hand, telekinetic projectile. I really like those spells. I think they're
Oh yeah.
cool. Sleep, love it. I love that sleep made
Perfect
it
for
on the
sloth.
list. Yep. And feeble, great. Ghostly carrier, awesome. So I gotta circle back to ghostly character, your carrier for a lore reason, but I'll get there.
Okay.
Summon elemental, great. Cozy cabin, love it. I love how
Perfect.
many of these there are. Slow, awesome. Dull ambition, I mean, he basically does that to himself.
Yes, exactly. I
Yeah,
love when they're embodying the sins and applying those to other people.
it's brilliant. Translocate, summon dragon, awesome. Telekinetic hall, collective transportation or transposition, teleport, great spell. For teleport alone, this one gets points for utility. Indolent haze, quandary, and I love that Resplendent Mansion is on here. Like,
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
easily the weakest of the ninth level spells that make it into these lists, but it's so on brand. I can't
It's
hate it.
perfect.
Uh, so the thing about um, Ghostly Carrier. So back in first edition, all the rune lords had these special runes that they could put on other people. It's a like it is literally just the rune of sin, like the little icon of their school of magic. They could call upon it and cast a spell, and like some of them were insanely good. Sortion's, she put it on herself, and if she invoked it upon you, you took a -4 penalty to your will saves, and there was no save against that effect.
Hmm.
So like hers was crazy good for an enchanter. Sloth's was you can summon a ghostly palanquin to carry you around. And I'm like, okay, it's on brand, but that sucks. Like that's so bad.
Wow.
Yep.
That's just Tensor's floating disk. That's great.
Yep. And meanwhile, Ghostly Carrier made it onto the list. I'm so happy. Um, but now reclined a port, and from what I recall from your video, you have some complaints with this one.
Everything. I complained
Yeah,
about everything about it. I do want to
this
say that if I made a sloth character, I would have to go witch archetype so that I could take the lesson of dreams so that I could make people sleepy all the time.
I do like that. Ooh, you could also take living hair and have your hair grab things for you.
Yes! Yes! Oh, that's perfect.
I love that idea. All right, yes, Runelord campaign. Here we go. All right, reclined apport, one action. The fact that this is one action is the only good thing about this entire
Yeah,
spell.
yeah, it is.
Target. Okay, range 60 feet. That is also pretty good. Targets one attended object of light bulk or less. We'll get back to that. You reach out your hand and you bring it. You summon the unattended object to your hand. At third level, it's bulk 1 or less. At fifth level, the range increases to 120 feet, and at seventh level, it's bulk 2 or less.
You have to
This
be fifth
spell,
level for a sword. It's stupid.
that's so stupid. This is a terrible spell. This spell sucks. Um, it should not be an unattended object. We talked about this on our previous call. We already
Yeah,
know how to fix this. It's
yeah.
one action. You make a ranged disarm attempt. You can do it on unattended objects with the same bulk limits. I have no problem with that. I would make it bulk 1 or less, so that you could just do a sword right away.
Yeah.
But ranged disarm attempt using Arcana. That's all you have to do.
Hmm.
That's all it is. Like that would be so much easier. And I mean, it's a one action. You can just throw this out as your third action on a turn, and like, boom, you buffed your. They have to take an action to reset their grip, or they're attacking at -2. You just supported your entire front line. Like, then it's a good spell.
And I want to point out that this concept does exist, so it's not like it's cheesy or something. It totally
No,
works in the rules. It's in Starfinder 2. The Technomancer can use a spell shape action in order to use athletics with Arcana instead of athletics at range.
perfect. Like, there's already precedent for it. Like,
Yeah.
that's such a better way to do this, and it's so slothy.
It is
Because
very slothy then.
like you're 60 feet behind the front lines, you're like, oh, okay, guys, look, if I'm gonna have to help you out, like, boom, he doesn't have a weapon anymore. Go kill him. Like,
Right.
it's perfect. Like,
Oh God, I love it.
that's what I would do. And like, I would even do like I might even consider doing a version where like you can either make a ranged disarm, or maybe you make like a ranged, like if you have the, what is it, dirty trick skill feat from thievery, like
Yes, I
you
was
can do
thinking
a
that too.
ranged.
Take his belt off.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. Like,
That's
yeah, if
perfect.
I would have a thing of like, if you have the dirty trick skill feat and X level of proficiency in thievery, you can attempt this with an arcana check. That is what I would do.
Hell yes.
Mm-hmm.
But we made sloth so much more fun.
It's so much more fun then, and it's useful.
Yeah.
Like, it's really powerful then,
This
or it
is
has the
not that
potential.
useful.
No, it's, I mean, like you and I were talking about, great for role play. Like,
Yeah.
it's awesome for just like reach out my hand and pull a thing to me. Like, I don't have to do anything. I can stay sitting on my chair. Like we talked about, like get that walking chair companion.
Yeah.
Yeah, like again, great for flavor, but you could just keep all that flavor in this version and make it not mechanically suck.
Right. Like what it does right now would be a side benefit of what it actually does that you use it for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Yeah. So there's your homebrew, everybody. Like, just do that. It'll be way better.
Oh, that's so sad. I'm sad about Sloth, but the spell list is still very good.
Oh yeah, the spell list is awesome. Like it's, I mean, I don't want to say it's perfect because like I have problems with summoning spells because like summon dragon at 5th level, technically the higher level versions aren't on your spell list, which kind of like aren't on your automatic spell list. Like
Oh, I
I
see.
don't think they auto heighten, and like once you get 7th level spells, you're never gonna cast 5th level summon dragon again. You know,
Yeah,
like
I don't get that. How some of the more powerful summoning spells don't heighten. Oh, this one does, but some of them don't.
yeah. So I don't know. It's a good spell list. The fact, like I said, or like like you were saying, there's still a lot of utility here. Teleport alone, awesome. You're gonna use it forever, from the minute you get it. Quandary, good spell. Planar Palace, good spell. Resplendent Mansion, okay, it's not the best mechanically, but it's so on brand.
But collective transposition is amazingly useful too, because you can move the
Yes,
whole
yeah.
party around and enemies.
Yeah, and like, and there's other good ones. Like Dull Ambition's just good. Like Dull Ambition's just a pretty decent spell. Summon Elemental. Like again, when you get it, it's pretty useful. 1st level sleep, pretty useful. For a while. So again, like it, I don't think it's as good as like Pride, Lust, and Greed, but it's definitely not a bummer. Like you've got good spells here. There's a lot to do.
Yeah, and you're
Um,
also the anathema is very soft. It's very simple to get around that.
yeah, just don't cast an illusion or cast elemental harm spells. Like there's a ton of harm that you can do directly. So yeah,
Hell, needle darts.
yeah, I wouldn't count that as using the metal element. Like I wouldn't call that elemental damage. So I guess piercing, it's its own thing. So
Oh wait,
yeah,
weapons,
overall,
weapons.
oh right, the weapons. Long spear, which is now just the spear. It was his was kind of so it was so of course, Runelord of Sloth, his weapon was the weakest. It was the least powerful of them all by a lot. It also didn't want to do anything. So like the like mind inside the weapon was like, don't make me do anything, and you shouldn't do anything either. Uh,
You shouldn't do anything either.
yeah, that was pretty great. But it was the dragon tooth spear because the spearhead was literally a dragon tooth mounted on a stick, which is
Cool.
pretty cool. I like that. And then the sword of sloth was a short sword, which it's not very flashy in concept, but it was. I mean, I like the short sword mechanically as a weapon. I think it's a nice, like, versatile little tool. The actual short sword of sin looks really cool. It's got this really cool etching on it, of like a group of people. But there's also, it had this really cool effect where you could hit someone with it, and then the sword, if they failed their save, would just teleport them away,
Oh,
which is a
neat.
really cool ability. It's really powerful.
That's cool. There's an ability that does the opposite of that. It teleports you to a creature you hit. So you could probably just reverse that and do the same thing.
Yeah, you could do that pretty easily. It was a cool weapon. I really hope in Revenge of the Rune Lords we get the stats for the 7 weapons of rule,
Yeah.
which are the pole arms, and then the 7 swords of sin. I would like
Yeah.
to see them come back.
That'd be cool.
All right. How are we doing on time? Do we have time to do Wrath in this video?
I think so.
Okay, cool. All right. Wrath, the Vengeful Glare. So Wrath, obviously back in the day, evocation, all the elemental damage spells, your classic fireball wizard. Um, Anathema, use your magic to protect or create. That is so broad. I hate it. Uh,
It's just not actionable. Like, I
no,
just want more
because
clear direction.
yeah, like, so if you look at it in the context of what it is supposed to mean, like in the old spell schools, okay, you can't use conjuration. Okay, no summoning, no creating physical walls. Fair enough. And no protection magic, meaning abjuration. Now, the one thing I do like is that protect is very specific, is specifically very different than what abjuration used to mean. You can now use detect magic. You used to not be able to do that. You can now use dispel magic. Oh wait, detect magic. Well, you can now use dispel magic for sure. You used to not be able to do that, which sucked.
Yeah, for a
Now
wizard.
yeah, now you are at least allowed to do that. You still can't cast shield, which is really annoying.
Yeah,
Um,
especially since Wrath is all about fighting.
Yeah, for like the Mage Knight Runelords, like the fact that you can't cast shield kind of sucks. Um, isn't there a spell though where you can animate an existing shield to function as a shield, like you can like dancing shield or something like that?
Yes, I just don't remember the name of it.
Okay, but you can still do that one because you're not creating it; you're just moving something that already exists around. Um, but then so don't protect, so you can't cast shield spells. You can cast direct protection magic. Can you create a wall of fire? Yes, you could totally create a wall of fire. You want to know how I know that? It's on your spell list.
Yeah.
Like, so there are definitely situations where you definitely could do it. Obviously, casting a lightning bolt on somebody that's going to try to hit you, that doesn't count as protecting yourself. That counts as dealing damage for the anathema. Um, so this one, I wish they would rewrite the anathema of just like no directly protecting using a spell. Like no putting magic armor on something.
Well, I think that I still don't touch the camera. I still think that I would let a Wrath Runelord learn Wall of Stone, and that
Mm-hmm.
if they used it to protect someone, then they're violating the anathema, and I don't know what that does. It makes you not have your spells or something for a day.
Yeah, you have to do the
The
there's like
atonement.
there's a version of atonement you have to do.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you could still use a Wall of Stone to make your fireball way better.
I don't disagree. There's a double problem with Wall of Stone though. That violates the conjuration rule of you can't create matter. Um,
I see your point.
so
That's permanent.
I agree that with the point you were making about Wall of Stone as a protection thing, the problem is it also violates the other half. So,
Yeah.
but in principle, I agree with you. It's just that specific example doesn't work.
Yeah.
Um,
And same with Wall of Glass because or Wall of Mirrors because the Wall of Mirrors is also permanent.
oh, okay. Yeah, that
Those
one's
two
weird.
are the only permanent walls I could find.
Oh, okay. Temporary walls, I would be way more flexible, like wall
Yeah.
of ice or something like that. Or wall of wind, I would totally allow.
Yeah.
Um, wall of fire, it's way more temporary. Obviously, they allow it. So, I mean, let's look at this spell list. I mean, it is definitely the most like basic of them all in a way that I appreciate. You know, frostbite and ignition, perfect, brilliant. Force barrage, thunderstrike, blistering invective. I love blistering invective. It's such a fun spell. Um, floating
Oh yeah,
flame.
because you're swearing at people and they're lighting into flame.
Yeah, it's great. Uh, fireball and lightning bolt. I would have been so sad if those weren't on there. Uh,
Absolutely.
ice storm, wall of fire, howling blizzard, wall of ice, blinding fury. So that one feels weird because it feels like an enchantment, but also
It
it's the
does.
sin of wrath.
Right.
If you don't have blinding fury on your spell list, that feels wrong.
It would.
Um,
Because it's anger. Like
this
anything that makes somebody angry, I think could be on here too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, rage,
Hmm.
Disintegrate. Interestingly enough, that was I mean, there's a weird pairing here because disintegrate and eclipse burst are also both on the gluttony spell list, which feels a
Yeah,
little weird.
it
Oh wait,
does.
I'm sorry.
Envy?
Disintegrate is on the gluttony one. Envy has the which one has eclipse burst? Oh no, it is gluttony. Yeah. Yeah, disintegrate and eclipse burst are both on the gluttony one, which feels kind of weird, but I mean they're both good offensive spells. I get why they're there. Fiery body, weird that feels like a transmutation. I mean it's fiery. I get fire. It's very elemental. It just feels like a transmutation, and that feels a little weird. Earthquake, great. Falling stars, great. Um, yeah, I don't really have a problem narratively with anything except Fiery Body. Overall, they're pretty good spells.
Well, fiery body is fine. It they can do transmutation in Wrath.
Oh yeah, that's right. I got yeah. You're right. They're not technically forbidden from it. So yeah, yeah. For some reason, in my head, I was like, no, you can't do that. No, they're
It still seems kind of odd that Gluttony has Disintegrate and that
yeah, that
Wrath
one's
has
weird.
Eclipse Burst.
Yeah, I don't know. Overall, it's a pretty good spell list. You're always going to have a really powerful damaging spell at your fingertips, which I appreciate. That's really solid. And I mean, you actually have more battlefield control than I thought you would with Wall of Fire and Wall of Ice. So, uh,
Yeah, that's totally true.
yeah. So which is nice on a wizard that historically you wouldn't play like if you're playing really in character, you wouldn't necessarily think to lean into battlefield control. So it's nice that like the mechanics are kind of encouraging you to keep that in your back pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Vengeful Glare, the one that I can never remember what it does.
It's
One
just more damage.
action. Yeah, one action, 30 feet, target one creature. I like that you can see, so you don't technically like, all you have to do is see them. You don't need like really clear like line of action or anything. You just need to be able to see them, which is nice. 1d4 damage. I like that it's flexible, cold or fire. If you already dealt damage to the creature on this turn, it also takes one persistent damage.
Wait, I'm sorry. Did you say that you don't need to see the creature very well, something like that?
No, you do need to see them. I was saying like I appreciate that you don't. It doesn't seem like you need like really clear line of effect. You just need to be able to see them. Like if they're behind a wall of glass, it looks like you could. If you're looking through a window, you could still target them,
Oh, okay. I
which I
got you.
like. So, um, yeah. So the damage is a little low, but it's flexible to fire and cold, which kind of sets that offsets the relatively low damage.
Yeah,
But the persistent damage is awesome. um, if you've already dealt damage to them this turn, and this is only a one action spell, so it's really easy to deal damage to them on this on one turn. So
totally is.
like I like offense, and I would like more offense with my offense. Like that's nice.
I think it's really funny that it's just, and if you already did damage, this damage increases by more damage.
Exactly, and it's like it's persistent damage, so you're going to be racking that up for a while. Like that's really nice. Like at high level, you're talking 8 persistent damage. That's not meaningless. Like swashbucklers, they're thrilled when they get bleeding finisher, and this is elemental persistent damage, which is not the easiest thing to invoke. Now it's fire and ice, the two that are easier than the others, but it's still pretty nice. So, and what's really cool is if they're not immune to fire and ice or resistant to both of them, you could put both of these on one character. If you hit a boss with this twice in 2 rounds,
Why did I not think of that? You're right.
you could just get persistent fire and persistent ice, which is
That's
nice. And
funny.
it's technically,
That's
you
true,
could
yeah.
actually, technically, if you figure out a way to one action damage them, you could one action, one action, one action. You would burn 2 focus points to do it, but you could potentially like one action damage, one action fire with persistent fire, then one action ice with persistent ice. And like if you do it early on, that could chip, you know.
It says that you have to have dealt damage, not necessarily with a spell, so you could have thrown something.
That's true. I mean,
Like a
you
bomb. Ah,
Lord,
acid flask, just right next to them. They take 1 damage from splash. You don't even have to hit them, and then you can do this.
that's true. That's true. I mean, and let us not forget, you have your pole arm. If by some miracle you manage to hit them.
All right, let's talk about the pole arm for a
All
second.
right. Well, actually, before we do though,
Oh, right,
Wrath's
weapons.
yeah, Wrath's weapon was the Ranseur, which is pretty cool. I mean, it's fine. And then their sword was the Great Sword, and specifically, the Sword of Sin for Wrath was the Great Sword Garvok, which exploded when you hit people. Like
Of course.
it just blows up, and it does. You're not like you as the wielder are not immune to that damage.
Oh my God,
Uh,
that's awful.
yeah, yeah. The original Garvok, like the guy who the sword is named after, blew himself up and the entire arena he was fighting in, and then they just retrieved the sword, and it's like you're named after that guy. He was cool.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I played Wrath, I would have to have as much explosiveness as I can. Like, I would use the explosive shield, just because.
Oh,
So if
that would be
somebody hit
cool.
me, it just detonates outward.
That'd be pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be hampered by not having a free hand because I think your polearm counts as a staff, so like you can use it to make your magic motions. So
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that'd
somatic
be
components
fun.
aren't a thing anymore, but yeah, I like it. All right, now let's talk about this polearm.
Um, okay, so let it not be mistaken that yes, you're still a wizard, and
Yep.
yes, you have a pole arm, but it doesn't
Mhm.
really matter. The Runelord feats is what we'll talk about briefly. That Rod of Rule. It sounds really cool, but it's sort of a trap. Like, okay, I can say that if you are working in a group and the group is helping you out so that you can actually hit someone, so that you
Hmm.
can make your spells more effective, then great. But in that case, do you need Rod of Rule?
Probably not.
Right, because they're still
Like,
helping you. Like they're still
mhm.
demoralizing, frightening, making people prone. They're still doing stuff to help your spells. So do
It's
you?
like, cool, make a spell attack roll. Like, why would I make a melee attack roll?
I can't think of a good reason to take Rod of Rule. It's not like you can archetype into being a base class wizard to take this.
No, you can't. And I mean, no amount of tricks you're going to pull are going to make it more like meaningfully more likely for you to land a crit. You're always going to be three proficiency, like at least two proficiency behind a fighter, and you're always going to be at least one proficiency behind even the weird marshals. Like even your thaumaturges because of their stat spread. Like you're going to be behind them. So like you're never going to crit. Like you're truly going to be crit fishing for a nat 20 in order to make this useful. And even then you might not.
I don't know why I find that so disappointing, but I do. Like, you have a staff that has a blade on it, and
Mm-hmm.
it gives you an ability if you hit them, but it's useless. Like, I guess it could be more useful if it's not just a critical hit, it's a hit. But even then, are you gonna bother?
Yeah. So the one thing I can think of is there's a weird there's a weird use case for this where you play your Runelord as an anti-mage. Like if
Oh,
you
you attack the
play
mages who have
yeah,
crappier
if
AC.
you play yourself as sort of a how like the monk always plays the anti-mage in the party because he's super
Yeah,
fast and he get to the back lines. If
totally.
you play your Runelord like that, you're gonna be a weird anti-mage because like you're gonna be doing it in a way where you're like taking advantage of sin counter spell to like undo some of their magic, and you're gonna be using your teleport spells to keep up with them and get past their defenses. But like if you do manage to get them in melee, you're gonna be way better in melee than they are, like a
Yeah,
lot better.
yeah.
And this is a nice way to kind of tack that on. Like if you were playing in a campaign like this isn't a perfect example, but like if you're
Wait, I'm
doing
sorry.
like
I should pause here because if not, you're gonna get cut off. We have less than a minute
okay,
left.
oh okay, cool, yeah, let's restart this in a second.
Yes, and I have to pee. So send me the
Okay.
link, but I still have to pee.
Mm-hmm.
How do I stop this?
So, but rod of rule, yeah, again, there's use cases here. Again, I like the idea of mage hunter as like a potential niche that this could fill, like a weird wizard mage hunter, which is kind of a that I don't know of other spellcasters that do that super well, and this might be kind of a fun way to do it, especially with sin counterspell being like probably my favorite counterspell mechanic in the game. Um, like I like that as an idea.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
like I think that works pretty well. But again, that's really niche. I would say 90% of Runelord players are never going to take Rod of Rule as a feat. Um, Pretty thematic, but I wish the class had a better way to capitalize on it by making you better at striking.
Right. Yeah. Because, like, I mean, you're already going to be spending. Okay. I guess as a wizard, you only have one primary stat and don't die. So it's probably con and intelligence or dex and intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
But to go with something that is strength, wizards aren't usually going to be using strength. They're usually going to be using intelligence, or
Mm-hmm.
their intelligence doesn't matter in a combat.
Yeah.
So to split your focus, they don't synergize. So you're
Mm.
going to be either using your intelligence or your
Yep.
strength, not both.
Yep. The one thing I could say is like if you do manage to pick up one of the finesse pole arms, you might be a little less mad. So you might be able to hit a little better. Um,
That's true. And if you don't care
so
about doing damage with the weapon.
yeah, yeah. And so like there's also like the weird niche situation like if you're playing in a let's say you're playing in like a free archetype or dual class game, then you can break this because then you throw investigator on here and you can use your devise a stratagem to know what your role is going to be beforehand, and you can kind of crit fish that way.
Okay,
Um,
yes, I agree with
yeah,
that, but it's
mm-hmm.
still a critical hit. It's not just a hit.
Yeah, exactly. You can know if you're going to crit. So again, it's super niche. Yeah, it's again, I like the idea of like trying to put feats in here that make you better with your with your polearm, and this is like the most obvious feat you can take is give you the critical specialization effects, but you're a wizard, you're never going to crit, so what does it matter? So what I do like is the next feat, sin bladed spell.
Dude, wait, hold on. I think that I
Oh,
found a way of making that more interesting and more people would take it. Rod of Rule, you could apply the critical specialization effect of your arcane bonded weapon to your spells that you rolled a hit with.
oh,
Because then you're like channeling your magic through your staff.
oh, that's interesting. To your attack roll spells.
Yeah.
That would be unique because I don't know of any other way to get a weapon critical specialization effect onto a spell.
Mm-hmm. And that would make it more interesting to take.
I really like that idea. You'd have to play test the crap out of it and make sure it's not going to break. But at the same time, like I like it because you don't crit on spell attack rolls that often because
Mm-hmm.
they're not that great. They're good, but they're not that good.
Mm-hmm.
The only concern I have with it is certain. I like that idea. The only concern I have with it is that certain Runelords would have more trouble with that than others because certain anathemas are going to prevent you from taking the obvious attack roll spells.
Oh, you're right.
Um,
Yeah.
but I still think that's fine because then those Runelords just don't take that feat.
Yeah.
But I really like that idea. I might homebrew that into my games. That's a really
Yeah.
good idea.
That seems fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
What's the crit spec for polearms?
Moving mostly. Do 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 spear. Do 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 do.
Yeah, the target is moved 5 feet in a direction of your choice. This is forced movement. Okay,
And spear is
that's
clumsy one.
spears. Okay, so if you did manage to pick a spear, it's Ooh, that clumsy one. That's good.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
The forced movement one, that's really niche. I could see that in a support position, like putting people in better positions for
Yeah.
fighters and stuff like that. That's got a use case.
Yeah.
Um, ooh, what would that? Hang on, I just thought of something. The vicious
Lucerne
prop.
hammer.
No, vicious property rune, because that tacks on critical specialization.
Oh, oh, that's cool.
I
Oh,
don't
that's
know what it
cool.
does though.
I didn't think of using property runes and their critical specialization effects.
Well, the vicious one in particular is, I think it's vicious. Grievous, that's what it is. All right. So the Grievous property rune, when your attack roll with this weapon is a critical hit and gains the critical specialization effect, you gain an additional benefit depending on the weapon group. So this is on top of the existing critical specialization effect. For pole arms, you can move the target up to 10 feet. So that makes it a little better. And then the spear
Yeah.
one, the clumsy condition lasts for 2 rounds.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so if you were to homebrew this, I would then tack on if you have the Grievous thing, like that
Totally.
impact, yeah, that stacks with the Rod of Rule thing. Yeah. I
Yeah.
like your idea. I'm totally putting that in how Runelords work at my table.
That
It's
seems
way
like fun.
better.
I want to write that into my book, but it's a
Mhm.
PDF.
My physical book right here. I'm
You're
flipping
like
the pages
Sharpie?
by the mic. Yeah, exactly. All right. Now, what I was going to say is Sin Bladed spell, the other level 6 feet. This is cool. I love how it puts the weapon and the spell casting together. Um, it's the one action. If the next spell you cast is a
Mm-hmm.
non-cantrip sin spell or curriculum spell that affects a single target, and you either succeed on your attack roll or the target fails its saving throw. Love this. The wound causes persistent bleed damage equal to the spell's rank. Super cool.
Heck yeah.
I let's see. It's if the next spell you cast is a non-cantrip sin or curriculum spell that affects a single target. I do wish, and at my table I would run it like this. I would say if you can also use your focus spell.
Yeah, totally.
I would say your focus spell counts for that too, for people like Wrath, because
Yeah,
like their focus spell does damage. Not all of them do, but like for the Wrath one, I would say that one counts. So
I agree. A
overall,
focus spell should be part of the curriculum.
yeah, I also love that this is like a spell shape, but it's kind of a weird spell shape. Like it's fun. Um, pretty cool. So like you could what's that thing where you get the free spell shape? Isn't there a way to do that? Or is that an arcane school thing that you can't do now because you're a class archetype?
I
Doesn't
don't
matter.
know of any except Technomancer.
Okay, I thought there was one in first. Well, maybe there is. I don't know. Doesn't matter. I like that it's a spell shape. So like anything you do that impacts spell shapes could, in theory, impact this. Cool feat. Like it. Glad it exists. Sin Reservoir. Once per day, get another spell slot 2 levels below your highest rank. It's cool. Some sins are going to like this more than others. I think Wrath could like it or might not, depending on if you want more spells that deal damage lower than your highest rank spells. Kind of depends on your adventuring day.
Yeah, it does.
But overall, it's a good spell. I like it. Sin counterspell. This is my favorite counterspell mechanic in the game. I love it. It's great.
Yeah, it's amazing. I
So
kind of
good.
thought that this is how spells should work.
Mhm. This is actually one of the reasons that I am playing a greed Runelord when I do finally play Revenge of the Runelords, because my anathema prevent me from casting illusions, which means I can counterspell illusions. And who's the final boss of that campaign? The illusionist Xandergul. I want to shush. It's fine. I have story reasons for doing this. And then Orichalcum Bond. I mean, I'm never going to be mad at free runes on your weapon, but you're a wizard. If you're using the runes on your weapon, you're not doing a
Yeah,
good job.
and
So
it's 18th level.
yeah. Again, if you're playing that weird mage hunter, have fun.
And you have to take the Rod of Rule first.
Oh, you do. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, okay. That makes sense though, because this is really leaning hard into
Oh
your
yeah,
weapon. So
I
I
agree. It
get
makes
it.
sense.
Again,
It,
if you're playing that weird, you know what? A an envy an envy rune lord who focuses on Rod of Rule and Orichalcum Bond and Sin Counterspell. There's a way to play an anti-mage in there that might be
you are
kind of fun.
correct. Yes.
You'd have to play in a really mage heavy campaign for it not to suck. But if you're playing in a campaign with lots of other wizards, that could be fun.
They are strong against casters as well because of Stupefy, Dispel Magic, and Banishment.
Yeah, like you're the mage hunter then. Like that has potential.
It really does.
Um, so yeah, overall pretty good. The only other feats I want to talk about, the Aeon Stone feats. I love Embed Aeon Stone. I love Aeon Resonance. I love that Tattoo Artist is on here because so many of the Rune Lord things were putting Aeon Stones and runic tattoos on their skin. And like enchanting them with magic to give themselves more power. So
Yeah, Tattoo Artist is perfectly in line with that. It's a
love
theme.
that. It's perfect. The only critique I have is that there are not enough Aeon Stones in 2E yet. I want more and I want better ones.
I kind of agree with that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go into the lore of embedding Aeon Stones into your flesh?
Yeah. So Aeon Stones are in kind of this weird place because like they existed before Pathfinder because they like the idea of an Aeon Stone is like that's old. That's like
Yeah.
before 3.5. I
Yeah.
don't know how far back it goes. I don't know.
Second edition, at least.
Okay, it does go to 2E. Okay, or second edition. Okay, I am not an aficionado on second edition. I know very little about it. But they're old. They predate the system, and traditionally, obviously they float around your head. The Rune Lords have this cool aesthetic where they would embed them into their skin, and this would allow the Rune Lords to not only not have to worry about them getting taken away by their many enemies, but it allowed them to potentially gain access to the resonant powers, and that's what you see in Aeon Resonance right there. Otherwise, like the only way to gain access to the resonant powers is with a Wayfinder, a thing that doesn't exist in Ancient Thassalon, because they were invented by the Pathfinder Society, in modern times. So it's kind of cool. I mean, the embedding of Aeon Stones, like embedding jewelry itself into your like gemstones into your flesh, that was just like part of the aesthetic back then. It was just like runic tattoos. It was just like the way you were.
Okay. It just makes me think Diablo.
I'll be honest, I didn't play Diablo, so I don't know.
It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
The crux is that the three primal evils are all encased in soul stones, and at one point the hero shoves the soul stone into his own head to contain the evil.
Okay, got it. Yeah, yep. I see where the reference is now. Yes. Okay. Yeah, so like it was just kind of an aesthetic. So like the thing about Aeon Stones in first edition was first edition obviously didn't have the resonance mechanic. So you could just keep tacking magic items onto yourself until you ran out of slots. But
And
Aeon
everyone
Stones,
did.
Well, and everyone did. It was great. It was cool. But Aeon Stones didn't count against a slot, in theory, if you embed them into your flesh. So how do you make your crazy powerful wizards at the end of a campaign have enough hit points that they don't just die the minute the barbarian gets to them? Well, if you're Sortian and Elasnist, and presumably a few of the other ones, although we haven't seen their stats yet, you just put 20 rune stones that give you 5 8 or 20 Aeon stones that give you 5 HP each in your skin, and then you're fine. Because you have 100 extra hit points. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Sortians were on her arms. That's why in most pictures of Sortians, you can see little emeralds on her upper arms. That's what
Oh,
those
okay.
are. And then Elasnists you don't see because she embedded them along her spine. Um,
Ugh.
well, they're very small. They're like little, like you would see on like a diamond stud earring. They're not very big. But yeah, so they're pretty cool. I really like the Aeon Stones. Like I said, I hope we get more. I don't love most of the ones that we have right now. The one I really like is, I forget exactly what it's called, but it's this purple one that lets you, that like sheds light and then illusions show up as like a specific color. And I'm like, oh, I'll put that in your forehead, and it's like a little illusion detecting flashlight on your head.
Yeah, that's
I,
neat.
I think it's really cool. But it's going on my greed rune lord to keep Xandergul from messing with me.
Yeah, it seems a little niche to have two feats based on Aeon stones that there aren't really enough of for variety or power.
No, I'm really thinking that we're going to get a lot more in Revenge of the Rune Lords
That
because
would make
they
sense.
were such a huge part of Thessalonian culture. Like from a mechanical standpoint, like all the Rune Lords had them, like every single one. Um, and the other one is the runic tattoos. I don't think we have enough magic tattoos in the game yet. I do use the ink finder supplement on Pathfinder Infinite. I don't know if you've looked in that at all. It's pretty cool.
No.
It's more magical tattoos.
Ink
Some
finder, that's cool.
It's very cool. They've got a whole one that's all about Harrow themed tattoos. You can get like Harrow cards tattooed on your skin, and then like you can
Okay,
get
I'm
a
gonna put the link in the video then.
you can get the whole suit too. You can get like a whole suit of Harrow
Dude,
cards.
that's so
It's
cool.
really cool. It's a really really good supplement. I think it's really cool. So
If you made it this far in the video, look in the description for the link for this.
yeah, it's super cool. Oh, you know what we haven't talked about yet? We never talked about the personal rune well uh focus spell.
Or
This
virtues.
or the virtues. Okay, let's start with the personal rune well. Because I got some stuff to say.
Okay,
Um,
let's start there.
focus 4, 2 actions, um, range 30 feet, so it's pretty close to you. 15-foot radius, 30-foot tall cylinder. So you make this zone. And basically, the Rune Lords of Thassalon pioneered the creation of rune wells, magical artifacts. A circle of light fills the area, and you create your very own rune well. I'm going to put that in air quotes because it's not what a rune well is. Whenever any creature casts Whenever any creature casts a spell within your personal rune well, the well resonates with your choice of effects. The rune well amplifies the power of your spells as well as those of your allies. If the spell deals damage and doesn't have a duration, so instantaneous damage, the well adds a status bonus to damage equal to the spell's rank. Um, the rune well punishes enemies foolish enough to attempt magic in your seat of power. I love that flavor.
Yeah.
Firing arcane bolts at the spell's caster that deal 4d6 force damage with a basic reflex save. If you cast Personal Rune Well a second time, your previous casting vanishes. Oh, duration 1 minute. You can dismiss the spell. And that damage scales up as you go up in level. Okay, so purely on a mechanical level, I like punishing the enemies. I like that one. I like that effect. I like the flavor. I think the damage is pretty good. You know, it's 1d6 per spell level. It's fine. It's pretty solid. The fact that it can trigger multiple times over that minute is really nice.
Yeah,
If
with
you
no
can,
sustaining.
yeah, if you can trap your enemy casters in there, this leans hard into that anti-mage thing again.
It
You
does.
know, oh, I really like that. The positive side one I don't like very much.
Well, it doesn't
Amplify.
do a lot.
No, it's oh boy, a status bonus to my Instant damage spells, a thing I might not cast depending on which sin I have. And it's only a status bonus equal to my spell level. Great. At max, that's 9. Cool.
A way they could make that more useful in general is give you like a D4 temporary hit points for each spell level.
I don't hate that. That's pretty good.
It's useful for all the sins at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think it's perfect, but
No,
that isn't going to be used most of the time.
no, I think it's way better on offense. I guess the cool thing about it is it doesn't just buff your spells; it does buff your allies. So
All mage group.
if you're in a heavy mage group, like what you were talking about, if like you do a group where you're playing Runelords, this has potential. And technically speaking, I don't see a reason why 2 Runelords couldn't put their rune wells with a slightly overlapping area and start stacking these buffs up.
Dude.
Then you've got some potential, and the fact that they last a long time. Um, so
There's nothing in here that says that they would not stack.
yeah, or maybe you put one on the roof and one on the floor.
Well, the status bonus wouldn't stack,
Oh,
but
that's
because
true.
it's
It's
a
a status
status
bonus.
bonus.
There you go. That's why you can't do it.
But the
Um,
responsive force damage would stack.
yeah, that's true. You could put them on. You could put 2. Yeah, you're right. So again, better on offense than it is on defense. Um, Overall, I don't think it's a terrible spell. My problem is with the flavor. This is not what a rune well is. A
Yeah, what
rune
is a
well.
Runewell?
Okay, so a rune well is an artifact. It is not a. It's not a spell effect that you can like create and disperse and get rid of on a whim. It is an incredibly powerful artifact that is. Have you ever seen the Black Cauldron or read the book?
No, I've
Okay,
tried to start it like 3 times.
no, it's no problem. So it's a big pool. It's a big well of raw sin magic energy. Are you at all familiar with Curse of the Crimson Throne as an
No,
AP?
but I'm
Okay,
familiar with the concept. I
okay,
have experience with the occult in general.
okay.
So it's the
So
same concept as the Well of Ages or Well Between Worlds or the Cauldron.
okay. The only reason I ask is because the Curse of the Crimson Throne adventure path is very specific, has a very specific artifact in it. Basically, Runelord Sorshan finds this thing called the Everdawn Pool, which is this pool of blood. And when I say pool, what I actually mean is a giant floating orb that they called a pool. It's a giant floating orb of blood. Um, and she's like, this is cool. It's basically a giant magic battery. And she's like, okay, what if I combined the magic of this with what I know about sin magic? Boom, you've invented the rune well. That was a horrible idea. But you did it. Congratulations. So what it is you take all of this sin energy, and what that is like the actual like manifestation of the corruption of the virtue that is in everyone. The sin energy exists all over the place, and if you're particularly sinful, you have more of it, and it can be harvested. You put all that in one place, and it's just this big magical battery that you can use to do stuff. Most famously, you use it to create a demiplane outside of time and space that you can hide in if, for example, a giant meteor is hurtling towards your planet. Uh, or other things, but just off the top of my head, giant meteor seems useful.
That might be related to the
It,
latest adventures.
it might be, exactly. Alternatively, you can put a corpse inside the rune well and infuse it with sin, and it will be raised to life as a sin spawn, which has a sense of, it's a super powerful humanoid, and they have a sense of smell that can track down sin energy and find more people that they can then
Oh,
sacrifice to the rune well, giving it more power, allowing it to make more sin spawn. And
okay.
the cool thing about the sin spawn is they don't need to eat or sleep as long as they're close to a rune well that is active. If it goes dormant, then they fall asleep. But they're really good foot soldiers, pretty strong. The other
That's a
thing you can
setup
do.
for a boss room.
Oh yeah, it has been successfully. It's pretty cool. And then so there's also major and minor rune wells. So there's the major ones, which are the ones that like the rune lords keep in their private sanctum. And then there's the minor ones, which are they're all connected by it's basically an internet of sin, which I should just say the internet because that's what the internet is. But they it's a network. Like they all talk to each other. So like if one goes dormant, it can be reactivated by reactivating the other ones. That's how all of this kicks off. Karzug wakes up his, and then all the other ones start waking up because they're all kind of connected. But the little ones only make sin spawn and do a few other really small things. The big ones let you make demi-planes and do stuff like that. But the point is, they're permanent artifacts. They're really hard to destroy. You can't dismiss them. This isn't that. Now, what I will give Paizo, like, or, you know, the feat, what I will give the feat some flexibility on is technically it's been 10,000 years since rune wells were first, like, or last used to their fullest effect. It's entirely possible that the science behind creating a rune well has completely evolved, and you're now able to create like a little temporary one. But I would have liked to see that in the lore somewhere. Um, I think there's better ways to do this than calling it a rune well.
I see what you mean, because it has a completely different effect.
Yeah, just cast your personal rune on the floor. Like, just make a mark that is your rune that creates a zone. Like,
sure,
just do that. If
like
I was
inscribe personal rune would be the name of it.
exactly, yeah, just you don't even have to call it. It's already called personal rune well. Just scratch well off the end. Just call it personal rune.
I like that.
But that, I mean, again, I have no problem with the effect itself. Let me rephrase
Yeah.
that. I have no problem with the offense. I wish the defense or the buffing was a little better. The debuffing is really good. I like the flavor. I just don't love the specific choice of calling it a rune well. But that's a personal thing. If you don't care that much about the lore, if you're not a weirdo like I am, it's really good, and you shouldn't have any qualms about like using it as written.
Well, I see from a lore perspective, it's not just you, it's from a lore perspective, it doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just feels weird. But again, if they announce that like the way rune wells are understood in the world have meaningfully evolved and changed, cool, fine with it, awesome. But until we get that confirmation in the lore, it just feels kind of off.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Oh yeah,
so
sorry.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
Virtues. No, we have
Um,
limited time now. Let's go to
all right,
virtues.
virtues. I have 20 minutes before I need to go to bed. All right. Um, I have work in the morning. Okay,
Thank you for doing this
virtues.
today. I
Oh,
appreciate it.
this is awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you. This is super fun. All right, virtues. So in the lore, there were never 7 sins to begin with. It was 7 virtues of rule. Depending on the source you read, the 7 virtues kind of change, but traditionally, they are, oh boy, just a second. Charity, generosity, love, kindness, zeal. Sometimes that one's replaced with rest, like earned rest, but usually zeal. Temperance, and the opposite of pride. So usually it's humility. I have seen confidence or like pride as a I have seen pride listed as a virtue where it's like virtuous pride, where you're like confident in your own abilities and that gives you a sense of self-assurance. But traditionally it's humility. Um,
Okay.
so those are the 7 virtues. Zin, these existed in ancient Thassalon. They were just like these, or excuse me, ancient Aslant before Thassalon. Zin, the guy who founded rune magic, was raised in a culture where these were like the 7 um, philosophical virtues of a ruler. Um, a perfect ruler would have these 7 virtues, and they would be great. He then, coincidentally, founded rune magic, a study where 7 schools of magic corresponded to 7 sky metals, also corresponded to 7 virtues. And he was like, aha, obviously these things are intrinsic truths about the universe and definitely not just a weird coincidence. uh Also, let's ignore the fact that the school of divination exists, completely disproving my entire hypothesis. The 7 runes, or the 7 virtues, are each assigned to one of the schools. They each get a color, they each get a sky metal, yada yada yada. His apprentices then become the Runelords. They are the Runelords of virtue. They discover that it's really hard being virtuous and it's really easy being sinful. And oops, we can shortcut our way into just indulging in sin to get more magical power. So that's way easier. And we're just gonna kind of kill Zin and take over. And that's what they did. So
To be fair, there are real life correlates to this that people actually do this kind of thing. Like they try to find a way to connect with the divine or magic or spirituality in one direction, and they
Hmm.
find out that like doing something that is ecstatic or harmful is easier, and
Oh
it
yeah.
is easy.
Oh, it's way easier. Like, I mean, especially depending. Like, unfortunately, Zin was really good at a lot of things. Judging character was not one of them. He picked some real bastards as his apprentices. He's like, nah, you're good at magic, you'll be virtuous. It's like, no, buddy, like this is a bad choice. um but yeah, it was an interesting choice. But anyway, they all start indulging in sin, and obviously the seven virtues are corrupted. But what's interesting is in the lore, if they had not been so like indulging in sin can get you extra power as represented by that contemplate sin feat that get lets you get an extra spell slot. Um, that goes all the way back in the lore to first edition. That like you could just indulge in your sin or meditate on your sin, and you would get extra spell slots. Um, Interestingly, you can do that with the virtues. It's never been represented mechanically because like virtuous rune lords no longer exist. It's not something they need to represent mechanically, but with the advent of New Thassalon, it could very easily come back, especially with Runelord Sorshin being like, this being evil sucks. Like we're constantly getting our asses kicked. I'm really bored. I've had every orgy I can have. Let's try not being evil for a change. So the virtues, like looking at these, if you wanted to play a virtue wizard, if they don't start introducing those mechanics, which I think they might at the end of Revenge of the Runelords, because if you're going to do it, that's the time. um Realistically, you can kind of keep all your spells the same for your basic spell lists because they're still associated with the same spell schools. Like necromancy was still associated with temperance. You were just expected to use it for good. You're just expected to use, I don't know how you use disintegrate for good, but if you kill a bad guy with it, it's probably fine. Uh,
Destroying walls?
exactly. Like, ghoulish cravings. I'm sure you could find a way. You get creative. Um, where you might have to work a little bit is in the like certain um what am I saying here? Certain focus spells. So like all-encompassing hunger, that feels weird to cast on a temperance on rune lord, like if you're playing a virtue version.
Yeah, true.
um so like, I mean, all-encompassing hunger would definitely need to change. Target takes 1d6 void damage. If the creature is reduced to 0 hit points, it dies. I mean, that's pretty tough. I mean, you could just say like, no, I'm putting hunger on them, therefore I am being temperate. But um I think it feels weird. That
Yeah.
one,
You might want to
that one.
substitute a champion spell for that.
Oh yeah, I actually like the idea of a champion spell or something similar. Or like maybe, I'm not that familiar with the Tui monk feats. Is there like a purity of body or anything like that? Like the old like
I know what
something,
you mean.
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I think there's a key spell. Yes. Harmonize self. It's a focus spell. It's a monk focus spell. You heal yourself in one of the following ways chosen by you when you cast the spell. You regain 8 hit points, or you attempt to cure one poison or disease afflicting you. Attempt to counteract the affliction.
I don't mind that as an option. Like
Yeah, that makes sense.
your temperance, like you haven't indulged, your body is in a good, I would just take that
Yeah,
as a good option.
wholeness of
Crest
body.
Yeah, Crescent Scepter already sucks, so let's replace it. Uh, let's jump past that and see if Cutting Eye works. So Cutting Eye for
Let's
N.
jump past that.
Yeah, we'll come back. We'll circle back. Um, Cutting Eye. You're the target of an attack. Oh, this is the Envy one. You are not off guard to the attack. So Envy becomes Charity. This one doesn't work for Charity at all. Unfortunately.
Hmm.
I don't really know what you could do for Charity. Like you could impose penalties on yourself to give your allies buffs. Maybe you could do something like that. Trying to think what else you could do.
There's a spell that lets you teleport an item from your hand to an ally.
I don't hate that. That's not bad.
The theme makes sense, but it's kind of not that
It's not
useful.
super powerful, especially not as a focus spell. I like the idea of keeping it a reaction though. Like whatever you do.
Oh, then that would be the champion. It's the cleric domain spell of protection, I think it is.
Oh yeah, that's abjuration too. Duh.
Protect or sacrifice.
Perfect. Yep.
Yeah, reaction, you sacrifice some hit points for your ally.
Yep. Perfect. Do that. The pride one.
This is fun.
This is cool. Yeah. Crescent Scepter. Okay. Well, we're still going to circle back to Crescent Scepter. Heart's
Stupid Crescent
Hook.
Scepter.
It's hard. It sucks so bad. Heart's Hook. Honestly, I kind of like Heart's Hook as it is. I think it's pretty solid. Um,
Yeah, I think that
I
it
don't know
would
that you
be.
need to change it.
What's the opposite of lust? Was it
Love.
love?
Love.
Yeah, I think
I
that
think
works
this one
because it's
works
still
pretty
pairing
well.
up individuals.
Yeah, I think this one works pretty well. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know that I would need to change it. Precious Gleam for greed. It's perfect the way it is. It's fine. You're already
Yeah,
never going to cast it on yourself. Like you're
yeah.
already doing the generosity version. So yeah, leave it the way it is. Reclined apport sucks so bad for the sloth one. And the thing is zeal. Like the opposite of
Oh
it is
God.
zeal. So that one's really difficult. I could see this is where the focus spell of give. Oh, wait, you know what I would do for zeal? Focus spell, extra movement. Like you cast a focus spell and you can give an ally zeal and they get they automatically can use a reaction to move.
Okay.
I don't know if that would be overpowered.
I don't know what that would be exactly in the system. Like I don't know of any spell that does that specifically, but the champion, the liberation champion, does something similar. It
Mm-hmm.
lets them try to get out of something and move.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you could use
Yep.
that.
Yeah, you could use something similar to that. I like that idea a lot. Vengeful glare. Obviously, that completely needs to change because the opposite of wrath is kindness.
Oh my God. Then wrath doesn't make any sense. Like all the spells are burn you to death in kindness.
Yeah, they're really bad. That one's really hard. You would have to completely change your spell list. The funny thing is, when it was kindness, it was still evocation. Um,
What?
yep,
What?
bring a
What?
brings a whole new meaning to kill him with kindness. Uh,
What?
I don't know how they squared that circle. Um,
Kindness earthquake.
I guess the point was just like be merciful. I don't really know. Um,
All
but
right,
that
yeah, all
one
right. Vengeful glare then I guess should change into something nice.
I would probably call it like pacifying glare and make it like a focus spell with the same thing of like fix your gaze on them, and then they have to make like a saving throw before they can do violence. It's an
Yeah, sure, like the
enchantment, so
calm
it
spell.
feels weird, but that's probably what I would. Oh, you know what?
Hmm.
Focus spell, focus spell on a target. That target then gains resistance to all damage. They're surrounded by an aura of kindness and the enemies can't attack them with their full strength.
I can think of three different spells that might work similar to that. So yes, I'm sure you could do
Mm-hmm.
that.
So that's most of them. Now we got to solve that stupid crescent scepter problem. Uh,
Oh, are we circling back to it now?
we're finally back. All right, we've circled back to the crescent. It's so bad. All
Poor
right,
pride.
the opposite of pride is humility. What could you do with humility? Uh, well,
Actually, then Crescent Scepter might function if you're putting yourself in harm's way and being
mhm.
humble. Then I'm not saying it would be frightened, but maybe it would make them sickened instead. And be a
Oh,
reaction instead.
yeah, make it a reaction. Still give it the saving throw, but make them sickened two on a or sickened one on a success, two on a failure, four on a critical failure.
Yeah,
And then, yeah, that works really well because they're so sickened at what they've done to such a humble creature.
yeah.
Something so beneath. Yes, that's how you fix it.
We should work for them.
We should. Yeah. Or I mean, they could pay me in books. That would help me afford this hobby.
Oh, that's funny.
There you go. We did it. Virtues. And it is 10:54 my time. We have a minute left in this call.
Oh my God, you're right.
We should
Oh
wrap this
shit.
up.
Yeah. All right. Thank you everybody for joining us today, and thank you for Podfinder Phil. Appreciate your help. You are the master of Runelords, and I'm glad you were here for your lore dump. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for letting me nerd out. It was fun. We should do this again.
We shall. Good night, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Bye bye.
Oh my God.